church, yo.
Reference, yo.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have two very special guests in the house today. First of all, we have our manager, Alex Czuleger from the Green Room.
Sasha.
Who, that too, and who has linked us with this amazing gentleman, Charles Baker, actor extraordinaire, musician extraordinaire, best known as Skinny Pete.
Skinny Pete
From Breaking Bad.
Breaking Bad.
Here in the house with us. Oh my God, we have so many questions and so much to talk about. Thank you guys so much for joining us, and welcome to the Trilogy Media podcast.
Let's rock and roll.
Charles Baker, ladies and gentlemen, holy shit. This is such an honor, by the way.
I get that all the time.
As you should.
Yes. We're so happy to have you.
Thank you for being here.
Glad to be here.
Thank you, Alex, for making that happen.
It's part of my job and also my pleasure. So there you
Alex Czuleger of the Green Room, who manages Trilogy Media. I don't know how or why, but you do.
Because it's fun.
This is, I gotta say, I'm beside myself. Like we were talking about this before. I think Breaking Bad, all-time favorite show.
Right on. I'm pretty fond of it myself.
And I mean, we won't make it a whole just Breaking Bad festival today, but I'm sure we'll have some questions that you've been annoyingly asked a million times.
Go for it.
But this is an honor, and this is so cool. So thank you so much.
Well, yeah, definitely. Thank you for being here. Thank you guys for coming. I honestly, when I sent a message to my Vladimir KGB agent and he did some break it down on who you are, on your background, I found something familiar between your life and my life.
Oh, yeah?
May I ask you a question?
Sure.
Were your parents, your dad were in military, and that's the reason why you bounce around the United States a lot?
Yes. Bounced around the world a lot. Yeah.
The world, that's right.
Yeah.
Where you originally born?
Washington, D.C. and raised in Hawaii.
Raised in Hawaii, that's right. Which island?
Which part?
Oahu and Schofield Barracks.
Wow.
For how many years?
First 7 years of my life. And then I guess dad went to Fort Knox. And that's where my mom and dad split. And so that kind of doubled my travel because my mom was always moving and she had custody, but then I'd go visit him wherever he was. And so he went from Fort Knox to the Carlisle, the Army War College, where he was a fellow at the Army War College in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. And then he commanded in South Carolina battalion, but he was also chief of military cooperation for the United Nations in the Middle East, and worked with the United Nations for many years, from the time I was like 9 until I was in high school, which was in England.
Right.
And so all over the world.
So you went to high school in England?
Yes. One of the high schools I went to was in England. I went to one in
Texas.
High schools?
Oh, gosh.
I think I went to
That's
7.
what Vladimir told me. He was like, he's been bouncing around.
What is this
7 different
you
high
keep
schools.
referencing?
Some like 7 different
high schools?
Around Texas, South Carolina, at Fort Jackson, South Carolina.
You probably didn't like that at the time.
Oh, no, I hated it. Pennsylvania, I started in Pennsylvania, and then Texas and South Carolina, and then back to Texas, and then England was where I finally got thrown out and ended my high school career.
That's why it sounds so familiar. My father was in Soviet Union Navy, and same stuff. Wherever he get deployed, places, my mom will pick up 2 kids and we'll follow to different directions. And that's how I was born in Siberia, all the way freaking God knows where, in the middle of negative 69 degrees.
One unfortunate day, right?
Yeah, I know.
I didn't know about the Siberia thing, honestly. That makes a lot of sense now, looking back on it. A lot of sense.
Wow. I don't know. Should I take this as a compliment? Should I take this? It's a compliment. It's a compliment. Yeah.
So for those that are maybe listening to this and not watching, we are graced by 2 people here right now. So we have Charles Baker, known for so many amazing acting roles, one of which being Skinny Pete on Breaking Bad, which is just such a legendary journey you must have been on, which
Yeah.
I can't even imagine. Alex Czuleger from the Green Room, who you just were telling us beforehand, 13 years?
13 years we've been working together. Yeah, it's been a privilege and an honor.
And I've only had the honor of how many years now?
5.
Did you let me ask you this? Did you turn him down the first time like you did me?
No, I think it was through your Texas agent, right? Who
Yeah.
I think you're still technically working with her. Who I think she works out of a farm, I think. Now.
She works in Waxahachie, Texas.
Waxahachie.
That's where she was originally
say that
based.
again?
Yeah, Waxahachie, Waxahachie, Texas. You know.
Yeah, no, I remember talking to his agent at the time, the one in Texas, and being like, I feel like there's a lot I can help with here with Charlie, and he just seems like a damn cool guy. And so whenever he's out in LA, like let's have a conversation. And I think it was on Ventura Boulevard. I always think it's Mimi's Cafe, right? Was it Mimi's Cafe or one of those like super popular chain brunch restaurants that was around like in the early 2000s?
On the tip of my tongue.
Who reached out to who first? Your reps or you reach out?
I honestly don't remember. Which was it?
The story. It was such a beautiful story. I was actually, I had finally decided I'm moving to LA. I had not lived here for.
And how old were you?
This was right in the middle, at the end of Breaking Bad.
Okay.
I mean, we were finishing. We're in between the 5th season and the 6th season, and I had a little SUV and a little trailer carrying some of my stuff, had packed an entire crate of stuff at our house for another truckload to bring. My wife and kids were going to fly in after I got into the house and settled. So I'm coming actually out of Arizona, out of not Phoenix. Anyway, I'm whatever's between here and Fort Worth, and just like going down this really steep mountain, the trailer behind me, and I get a call, and it's from Alex, and he tells me that my agent Linda had mentioned that I was moving to LA and that I might be looking for a rep, and I said absolutely. He says, well, when do you want to, when can we meet? And I was like, well, I'll be there tomorrow.
I'm driving right now to the meeting.
And you were coming from Fort Worth?
From Fort Worth.
Okay. Is that where you live for majority of filming Breaking Bad?
Yeah.
So you would like fly mostly to New Mexico, right?
Yeah.
So,
I would sometimes drive if they wanted me there for a while, so I didn't have to like try and lug a huge suitcase full of a week's worth of clothes.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, it was just a quick commute to New Mexico from Texas, and I was hired originally out of Texas for that. And
Wow.
Then came out here in my first the very last episode. I was actually doing it from LA and got to.
So he was about to do like the end, right? The finale when you guys first.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, and it's for me, I was.
What were you thinking? This guy's on this massive show.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the same thing I'm thinking all the time. Whereas, like, I'm a big fan of finding sort of diamonds in the rough that I feel like are not getting the attention they deserve, to be honest with you. A lot of same thing with you guys, as you well know. I've told you that many times. But for me, I was like, this guy, Charlie Baker, could do so many more things. And I remember specifically when you and I first sat down, I was like, we have to counter program against Skinny Pete as soon as possible on a different show. Have you play something completely different as soon as possible, because Breaking Bad, as great of a show as it is, it will live on in history forever.
Right.
But all shows go off the air, and then the world asks what's next, right? And I remember the next thing that came up was we signed together. We had a lovely brunch on Ventura, and I was like, you say this stuff in the signing meetings
At the Marmalade Cafe.
Marmalade Cafe. That's what it was. Not Mimi's. Marmalade Cafe.
Okay.
Mimi's.
Yeah. Still there? Marmalade Cafe. And I, you say this stuff in signing meetings because you genuinely want to help, and you think, okay, this is what I want to do, but you don't know if you're able to accomplish it because it requires so many other people to want to help on the buying side, casting and producers or whatever. And there was this role that came out, looked like a really small role, but I was like, it's really different for Charlie, and I think this would really accomplish our goal. I'm going to call him up and be like, hey, listen, I know you were just on this huge show, what have you, but there's this little show that hasn't come out yet. It's called The Blacklist.
Oh my God. Little show.
Yeah. And,
wow.
I think it's a role that could really do well. And it was a teeny role. Like if I was Charlie and I was getting the call from me saying, you know, take a look at this role after coming off Breaking Bad, I've been like, who the hell is this manager? You know, like pitching me this little stupid role. Well, to his credit, you know, he went and he auditioned for this role and he got it. Or maybe it was a straight offer. I can't remember.
No, I read.
You read for it.
I actually read for a different character.
Different character.
Right. Yes.
Than what they actually gave me.
And they offer it to him. And I said, okay, look, you know, like we can't, he's just coming off the biggest show in history. We can't, you know, let's bump up the money. Let's get him out there, you know, have this, you know, great one-off scene. I told Charlie, I said, listen, I just think something's up with this role. I just think something's going to come of it. Well, this one scene ends up becoming like the promo for the show for the first three.
I saw that.
The first 3 months before the show came out. It was you and who's the lead of Blacklist was
Spader.
James Spader. You and James Spader basically are like the commercial for this show. Wow. And this teeny role ends up becoming like this 5-episode thing, and the internet's going crazy, like Skinny Pete's on the Blacklist and all this stuff. And that was, you know, off to the races.
So you
that
have
was
a
our first
track
booking.
record of turning what were smaller roles into long-lasting recurring.
That's what I've been trying to do, because that's where a lot of the good stuff comes from. And it's really fun. That season was neat because I was the only actor who had like done scenes with both the two nominees for Best Actor for the Emmys that year. And like I was in both of those shows. Like Brian was up against James Spader.
Charlie tends to collect like dinner party story bookings. Like that was really cool because then you fill it in.
Those are the most fun ones, though.
Yeah,
right? I mean, like the ones that you can just have those anecdotal.
I actually,
so cool.
before we're gonna go deep in all these gigantic shows and everything amazing what happened to you, I just like have 2.5 baby questions for you. Okay? I want to go a little bit in the past because I found a lot of.
I'll try to keep them to baby answers.
Yeah. I found a lot of similarities and okay. 2 questions.
Yeah.
Question number 1. Your passion were music and everything that's, you know, piano and stuff.
And singing, right?
How did you end up being from this direction end up being in acting direction?
Okay, well, I tried.
You tried both.
I tried both. I tried. I was throwing spaghetti at the wall. I was a waiter at a bar, and I had a really shitty night, and I just gave up and went, I'm going to either work in the entertainment industry or I'm going to starve to death.
Right.
I tried being a singer in a rock band. They liked me as a singer. They hated me as a front man. So I went, well, maybe I should start taking some acting. Like maybe if I took acting classes, I could get a little bit more personal on, you know, have better personality on stage.
Loosen up
a little bit.
Right.
And so I started taking more acting classes. I love doing musicals, but because I like to sing, and then I took some dance, you know, early on, and so I had fun doing those. And then when my professors asked me to do a straight play, and I was like, no singing. Okay, I'll try it. And I went on there, and I had one of those moments where, you know, I lost the fourth wall. Like the audience was gone, and I was in the role playing a lawyer, and I was like in a courtroom on stage, and it was like, it felt real, and it was just, oh. And I kind of went, I like this. Yeah. And it kind of took over. I started doing more of that, and changed my college major from music to a double major. So I was going to be theater and music.
Is that true that you met your wife in the theater?
Yeah. And
how did that happen?
That was a really fun story. She had seen me in a couple of plays because she had friends who had done other plays at other theaters with me. And we'd been kind of passing introduction, but I got asked to play Robert Crumb, R. Crumb, who was a 60s comic book artist, in a play at this theater called Hip Pocket Theater. It's an outdoor avant-garde. They hate it when we call it that, but it's an outdoor theater that does like commedia dell'arte and Shakespeare and a lot of original plays. And the director of that theater had a special connection with R. Crumb and was allowed to use his comics to make a play. And so I was going to play R. Crumb, and he asked me to, you know, come out come watch the first season, the first show, which was a show called Cowtown, which is a musical about the creation of Fort Worth, Texas. Come out and watch the rehearsals so you can see what kind of theater this is, because it's a totally different theater than what most of the theaters you go to. And so I went to go watch the rehearsals, and he was starting up, and a couple of people had not shown up, and he's very strict. He used to teach at Duke University, and he was very strict and was like, "Oh, they're out. I need another actor." And he turned to his stage manager and he said, "I don't really need a stage manager. I need a body on the stage. You want to do it?" And she goes, "Yeah." And then he looks at me and he goes, "You want to be in this one too?" And I went, "Sure." He said, "Come over here." And he grabs me and he puts me on stage, and he stands me and he grabs the girl and he puts her next to me, and he said, "Get down on your knees and look at him like you love him." And she did, and I went, "Hi."
Hi, future wife. Hello, Steve.
That's amazing.
And we started dating, and 3 years later, I guess we got married. And then she went to law school, and that helped a lot. But yeah, it was. And then we worked at that theater for 6 years together.
Wow.
Just doing show after show after show, summer stock kind of stuff.
If money would not be an issue, and let's say if theater and TV industry or filmmaking will have equal pay, would you, like, your soul, everything, would you dedicate your life to playing in a theater if money would not be an issue at all?
Yeah, and that's the exact reason why I stopped doing theater.
Right. Yeah, because there is no money in theater.
Yeah,
right.
I was doing a play. I'd been cast in it. We had been several weeks into rehearsals, and then I booked it was a web series, but what the pay on the web series per day was more than what I was getting for the entire run of the play. And I have a very strict kind of like rule about I'm not going to drop out of this play just because because it doesn't pay as much. So I had to lose the role. They end up giving me a different role in the web series that shot on the weekend, or like shot at a time when I wasn't doing the play. But it kind of like hit me. I had a kid on the way at the time, and like wife, and I was like, I need security. I need security. If I'm going to work in this business, I need to do this stuff that's going to help cover the bills. Yeah,
but to Charlie's credit though too, and we've had I would say, there's always been the suspenseful moments over the years, but you look back at the resume that you've got going on, and it's always been a good balance of art and commerce. I mean, the money jobs are great, and it's fun to see that. You get happy when you see the big checks come in for your clients because you're like, oh man, the kids are going to Disneyland or whatever. Right. But I've personally, and other people probably have had to make these decisions more thoroughly in the past, but I've never had to see Charlie really sell out on any roles or anything like that. And that's been a point of pride for me as a representative when it comes to Charlie too, that, it's a lot. There's nothing I would point to that I wouldn't say, yeah, that's good, honest work there. And not only did he deserve the paycheck, but, he deserves the accolades as well, not to kiss too much ass or anything like that, but it definitely is.
Well, that's why I was curious too, when you were driving that trailer you'd already done Breaking Bad. Like where are you at mentally with like what you really wanted to do, which was theater, versus where your career has kind of taken you? Like, did you come to LA with any kind of intention of still trying to do that stuff, or had you kind of moved past it, or like how does that work?
I kind of moved past it. Once I started doing TV and films, I was like, well, this is where in Texas, where I was, the group that I was involved in, doing theater was the step you needed to take to get to the
film and TV
and
which
film.
is not a thing in LA really.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was trying to say, because where I came from Konstantin Stanislavski, right? So theaters in Russia, it's like same as in England and London, it's huge.
Yeah.
So you're not able to break in filmmaking industry unless you're going to be in theater. Yeah. And then when you have your resume, you have your headshots, you go to the audition, and the first fucking question they're going to ask you, which theater you came from and who is your coach. And based on that, they're going to put you in a movie or a TV show. Yeah. So if you don't have any theater background, you're useless.
Yeah, no, you're right, actually. And I think a lot of that too more speaks to the work ethic for a lot of clients that you learn. It's not even so much because, you'll hear the names, you'll hear the Stanislavski and the Alexander technique, and you'll hear Meisner a lot. The further west you go, the more Meisner you hear, because it's sort of the last name that they were taught to say and what have you. But But really, it's not even so much a question about the training, because people end up talented in different ways. You know, it's really more about the work ethic, and that's the thing. Like when you meet a client who's got work ethic, it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. So it's not a question of whether they're going to be successful, just a question of when and on what. You know, and then it's kind of an ugly thing when you see someone who has that potential but doesn't have that work ethic you're talking about, or that Charlie's talking about from the theater world. You're like, man, you know, you could do so much, but I can't imbue you with work ethic, you know, like it'd be pointless. It'd be like, you know, tossing these opportunities into the void, you know?
Yeah. I remember watching, it was like a little snippet. Some reporters were asking Russell Crowe, like, hey, do you believe in, you know, like an acting education? And because you don't have one, right? So like they were trying to poke him, and he was like kind of like mumble, who fucking need education acting? I'm already fucking diamond. I was born diamond. You know, like you don't tell me to go to Cape.
The Russell Crowe method, he said. He's like, I'm the Russell Crowe method.
That's right, Brian. Yeah, I have my own method. I don't need Stanislavski. I don't need Stella Adler, Mason. I have Russell Crowe method.
Can you speak to being in the trenches of, like, you talked about, you were waiting tables,
right?
And like, I think a lot of people
can relate
to
including us.
Which, by the way, we got to wrap this up because I got chilies. I got to get to.
You're dressed for it.
It's the nicest chilies you'll ever go to. I'll tell you that.
Hold on. What is that place with the?
Is it the after party from the Versace party? You came from?
I went from.
The Oscars were last night, by the way.
The Oscars were last night. My office is across the street, so I went right across the street to the Oscars. We had a party. Then I
hosted it.
I hosted it, and then I got to go be a host at Chili's, and then I came here. I took a break, my lunch break, to come here, and then I go back to Chili's.
Typical Hollywood.
I was about to say not Chili's. What is that place where Hooters? Hoochie Mamas. Hooters.
How does that?
I mean, maybe you were the Hooters.
I don't know what place you're going to. That sounds like the knockoff version.
You didn't wait tables at Hoochie Mamas, did you?
No.
Being in the trenches, I know at least for me, I had that period. We all did, but having that period of working shit that you just absolutely despise, making that decision, like you said, to just ditch it all and say, I'd rather starve to death than do this longer.
Yeah.
Like, how can you? Like, how long did that go? How long did it take you to discover that was the ultimatum for yourself? Like,
put it to you this way: he used to be Fat Pete.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
No.
No.
I worked at Denny's since I was like 14 years old.
I worked at Denny's.
I washed dishes. I did every job at Denny's until I was a general manager of Denny's.
Wow.
For many years in the East Coast, I was the corporate cook trainer. I trained cooks for stores across the East Coast.
Wow.
And that's what I thought I was going to be.
I did overnight waiter for a few months. I mean,
Ashley knows everything about
cooking. I didn't climb the ladder, but
he cooks great.
I still do breakfast for our family.
Oh my gosh.
Especially brunch.
Grand Slam at home?
Oh yeah. Yeah. We do it all. But I hated every minute of it. But I thought it was what you were supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, I have some older kids, and I had a kid who I hadn't seen in a while. And one day I was working I was actually at an IHOP at that point, and I covered in grease, wearing this stupid little hat. So, I saw a kid walk in, and I thought it was my kid, and I hid from him. And for a minute there, I sat there and like, why am I hiding from him if I think that's my kid? And it was because I was ashamed of this minimum wage, short order cook life that I had. And that's what made me decide I needed to go to school. And
enough is enough.
Yeah. I want to at least be something that, my kids, when they see me, at least could be proud of. And so I thought I was going to be a music teacher, was really what I thought I was going to do. And then things kind of just snowballed from there. But then I discovered it wasn't that I needed for me to be a better person, I didn't need to have a better job. It was I needed to be able to love what I do. And if I'm happy with what I'm doing, then I have that'll come across. My self-hatred doesn't go everywhere. And that's that was kind of the start of it. And that's why I started going to school. And that's why I quit being a grill operator and went to waiting tables at this really cool nightclub called Caravan of Dreams in Fort Worth, which had enormous talent come in and do the unplugged kind of shows for a little small audience. And that was a great job getting to see that kind of music and all these people do it. But then, like I said, I had a bad night one night and I just went, nope, I'm not going to be other people's bitch anymore. You know,
That's right.
I just can't do it. I got to go live for myself. It took about 2 weeks for me to start making way more money than I did, working way less time than I was because I just started putting myself out there.
But you had kids at that point already.
I wasn't supporting those kids. I was paying child support, but I did not. They weren't living with me, and I didn't have like any responsibilities other than call them up and say hi. Because they were across the country, and there was
Makes sense.
and wasn't allowed to see one of them. But that's a totally different story.
Right.
And so I wanted to be sure that when I did get them back in my life, because it wasn't from anything I was doing or wanted to do that kept them out of my life. It was just the circumstance at the time. I wanted to be someone they could respect when they did find me.
Yeah.
When I did get to
yeah.
see them. And it worked out pretty well because actually it was probably Breaking Bad that got me enough attention for them to go, hey.
That's my dad. Well, that was my next question, because sometimes you hear that like when someone is really famous for doing XYZ, like the whole world is like fawning over them, but then their own kids like don't give a shit. Like
that's my youngest, my two youngest.
Doesn't care?
My daughter
They don't
was
care?
born the same year Breaking Bad started, and so she grew up with it. And then my youngest son was born many years after that, and so they're both like whatever.
What with that?
this little show.
So you were doing
Yeah.
voiceover work before you were you in Texas doing all this voiceover
Yes.
work? Because I see over 50 some credits.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
That throwing myself out there. I was working as I was just doing background work for a friend of mine who was doing his own films, and he ended up having a great career, John Keyes. And there was another guy doing background work with me, and we were just sitting there, and I'd gotten an audition through my agent in Texas to audition for a show, and I got one little line part on an animation, on an anime, Galaxy Railways. And I was telling this guy, and I had a whole bunch of fun doing that. That seems like it'd be a cool job. He goes, "Oh, really?" And he pulls out his phone, and I just see him, he kind of wanders off in text, and a few minutes later, my agent calls and goes, "Hey, you just booked another Funimation job," and I was,
Heck yeah.
"What?"
Just like that.
Yeah.
I was like, I looked at my friend, like, "Did you do that?" And he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "I direct a lot of those," and so I was
All about people that you know.
kind of got
Yep.
into the once you got into the little mix of people they use,
And it just
then it just kind of became a little regular.
Yeah, what's
gig.
wild too is when Charlie and I will go from time to time. We'll do appearances. They'll have him come and do autographs and stuff like that in various states. And there's people obviously the most will come up for Breaking Bad or for Blacklist or Mandalorian lately. Obviously, but there's always a handful that are diehard that just are all about the voiceover work that he's done. And this was before my time, so they're just spouting off characters and stuff. I'm like, I have no idea
don't know what you're talking about.
but I'm happy you like him.
A lot of the times I don't know what they're talking about, because a lot of that work was come in. It was like an hourly wage for the minimum of 2 hours.
Yeah.
and
When it comes to voiceover, 2-3 hours.
non-union, very low,
Right.
very low pay, and they would just say, "Come in and read a few things." And a lot of times it was for what they call WALA, which is with all voices kind of thing, where it was just background stuff. And then they'll go, "Oh, here, read this character," and I'll read it, and then they'll get another episode, and they'll go, "Oh, that guy's the main character in this in the rest
Yeah,
of
they
the
like
season."
to do that in the voiceover world because once they get you in the booth, they're like, "Hey, read this. It's only a couple more lines." Then it becomes like, "Oh, maybe you should have talked to my representative about that because that job was worth a little bit more." You feisty booker, you.
Yeah, that wasn't going to be it. not with that group. And it was just come in and do some voices, and it was a great education for acting. It was a great lesson because you had to be spontaneous.
Practice. You have to be quick.
They'll show you a scene. Here's how it goes in the original language, and now you just recreate that.
Do something, create that.
Okay. And you have to try and give the emotion, but you also have to follow their tempo, and you have to come across as real. And it's a challenging kind of role, but it was fun.
How are we skipping the most sexy part? Okay, so let's talk about. First of all, did you know that Breaking Bad gonna be such a huge hit? Like when you got your first audition, right? When you read it, walk us through that process. Like me and Ashton, we all filmmakers, but we also actors.
Well, and is it true? I read that the character was not called Skinny Pete; it was called Skinny Stoner.
Skinny Stoner.
Yeah. Wow.
It starts with I was doing some acting workshops with a local casting director in Fort Worth, and she had gotten a hold of this script, and she's like, the network passed on it, so we're going to use it as our material for this week, and it was Breaking Bad.
Network passed on it. Wow.
It was what, 40?
Lots of networks.
A lot of networks.
Yeah, if you went around today, no one would ever admit that they took the meeting and passed on it.
Yeah.
But there's always been the inside joke, like, what if Breaking Bad ended up on ABC? Would it have been different? Totally different show.
And so she was casting it for a different network, and then they went, no, we're not going to do this. And so she was like, but we'll just use it for this material. And so we used it for several weeks.
As a rehearsal, as it like when you go take classes, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, she did this like she'd give you a scene and give you 15 minutes, and then you had to come in and audition for her for that role.
Is this Sharon or Sherry?
Tony Cobb Brock.
Okay.
And so I was doing several weeks of that, and then one day we came in, and she was, "You aren't going to believe this. AMC picked up the show. They're actually going through with it." And I was like, "I'm going to be on that show." And she's like, "No, you aren't."
Now that's supportive. That's Stanislavski. No, you're not.
No, you're not. Who said that?
To be fair, she was like, it's about a high school teacher who deals drugs to high school students. You're too young to play a high school.
To hypersimplify it.
Yeah. How old were you?
I was 27, somewhere around there.
Holy.
And so it's like you're too young to be a teacher, and you're too old to be a high school kid. And I'm like, but they're bound to need some junkies.
He immediately was like, I can find
they gotta have users. I'm gonna get at least something.
Had you been cast as something like that before? Like, did you?
Not really. I mean,
is it just a typecast in your mind? You were just like, I could play a junkie? Like, you just
love the script?
I have two brothers who were junkies, so I really had a lot of material to work with.
Were you already skinny?
Yeah. And that was actually because of a car accident. I'm naturally skinny, but I had bulked up a lot prior to this car accident, and then I didn't work out for a while because I had a slip disc in my neck, and I just lost a lot of muscle, and there I was. And so a couple of weeks later, after she enthusiastically told me there was no chance in hell I was ever going to get into this show.
Was she casting this show?
She was co-casting with Sherry Rhodes in Albuquerque. They had a relationship. Sherry was in Fort Worth prior to...
But this wasn't because Bialy Thomas cast it.
Sharon Bialy and Sherry Thomas do it out of LA.
Out of LA.
And then they have the local casting directors that will fill in a lot of the roles. A lot of, honestly, even some of the major roles that aren't like the main roles, they'll fill it in, because oftentimes, you'll hear people like they got cast and then someone didn't know who they were in the local LA acting community. It's because they cast them out of either New Mexico or Texas or wherever.
And it was just a day player at that point, right?
It was supposed to be a day player. They had three of them. They had a skinny stoner, a tattooed stoner, and a chubby stoner.
The variety.
Wow. What kind of stoners do you need? You're going to be chubby one. You're going to be tattooed.
They were all out. So
So you end up being skinny stoner.
I was like, I'm skinny, and so I threw on a wife beater, and went in and auditioned for skinny stoner, and then they give me a call back a couple days later, and they've changed the script. Now we've just got chubby stoner and skinny / tattooed stoner.
What was the scene you were? Was the scene that you auditioned in the show?
Wasn't a show or not?
It was the first episode. Yeah, my first episode. Sitting on the couch.
Yeah.
trying to get him to pull out some meth, and he's like, oh no, I'm not doing it. Like, okay, fine, we'll leave.
But originally, when you were reading that, when the show passed that script and it's already in workshops, what kind of role did you read? Like first time when you
when
put your eye on the script?
we just had the pilot. We played around with. I tried all the different guy roles. I played Hank Schrader at one point. I did Brian's. Just in practice,
Just workshopping them.
just
and stuff.
workshopping it. Just played.
And people don't realize how often
tried
that
all the
happens too.
different
Like
characters.
everyone in the cast of all your favorite shows, like they got shuffled around beforehand a lot, And
Before they auditioned for other parts.
Like in The Office, that happened a lot too. I mean, you can look at all the audition tapes for the people who ended up on the show in their favorite roles.
Speaking of Bob Odenkirk, I mean,
there you go.
Bob
Odenkirk, yeah. It's a small world.
It was just a fun, really cool process.
And then
So you got the call back.
Right, you got called back.
And they're like, yeah, skinny tattoo stoner now. And I show up. They were casting these roles in Albuquerque also. And then Texas was just kind of like their fallback, because Albuquerque had just built their studios, but they didn't have a lot of infrastructure. Right. And not a lot of actors were hanging out around in Albuquerque waiting for the studios to start building up. Texas had pretty good infrastructure and has a really amazing cultural community. And so a lot of the day players on Breaking Bad are from Texas.
Wow.
Makes sense.
Because we were the closest available, and less expensive,
local hire,
and less expensive than
for them to fly,
LA.
to put in hotel, transportation.
Even just base salary was a little bit of
that's a conversation we'll have down the line, because I remember having that conversation. I was like, I ended up calling Sharon, and when we started working together, I ended up calling LA casting several times, being like, look, we need at least make sure that we're bumping him up. He's based out of LA at this point, and we had the conversation for the blacklist and all that kind of stuff. Like, it doesn't matter how successful the actor is, they always try and get you for as little as they possibly can.
Yeah.
Okay, so
you booked it, obviously.
Right.
For a day.
Yeah. Just
And
the one episode.
Just, I've seen the show a million times, but which episode number was that?
2?
It's like, because it wasn't the pilot.
Yeah,
but it was
the
like,
pilot. I think
and it was
episode
in
2.
That scene was in Jesse's
house.
Which was that on location or was that in the studio?
That was on location that time.
So it was it was really in that.
Yeah, we did a lot of it on location, and then when they stopped using that house, then they recreated it almost identical inside a studio, and it was really weird, because you're inside the studio, inside a house.
That's not the house.
And you've actually been inside that house, and so you're
like
suddenly
you're
transported, and then you open the door, and you're like, oh my god, what is this?
It's like Inception, a house within a house.
Looking out straight to the crafty, and then he's like,
those are lights, those are fake trees.
Episode 4, season 1.
So
Okay.
4.
Okay.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, Ryan.
That's church, yo.
I know it was an even number.
I just watched El Camino last night, so yes, church.
Right on.
That's funny.
Right on.
So when you finish your filming day, you're like, all right, fuck, this is it. I'm going home, right?
Yes and no. I was like, man, I have a pretty good feeling about this. Like, they established me as one of the main characters' friends. Like, they're bound to bring me back on this, right?
And episode 6, you're back. So it was...
Yeah, and it was...
So when did it become Skinny Pete?
In episode 6.
Okay.
It was in the middle of the script. I mean, it was Skinny Stoner, and then Skinny Stoner's line was, yo, man, I'm Skinny Pete. And then the very next line said Skinny Pete.
Wow.
And I was like, they gave me a name. I called my wife, they gave me a name. I got a name.
That's so cool.
That's
and even at this point, though, the show wasn't on the air yet, right?
Not yet, no.
So did you have any sense for, I guess you wouldn't have known at that point, but how massive?
I had no idea. A lot of the casts would come up to me, the bigger players, and were like, have you seen the pilot? And like, no, I'm not one of those privileged actors that they just randomly invite to go watch the pilot. And they're like, it's the most amazing pilot I've ever seen. You just wait till you see this. And I'm like, I I can't wait. I'm really looking forward to it. But I got to see it just the same way as everyone else on AMC. Like when it first aired, that was the first time I got to see any of it. I was blown away. But
Wow.
you had a general feeling that everybody there, it was like magic in the air. Everybody got along. Everybody loved
chemistry,
working together.
everything,
Chemistry.
like-
Brian was like this grandfather of the set. I mean, he was like the dad for everybody, and he was just a great lesson in how to be a lead actor. Is just you have to be a good leader.
From that dynamic of, because he ended up directing a lot of episodes, and obviously it was just like the pilot of that show. But in the beginning, in the first season, was he as much of a he was the lead actor, obviously, but was he as much of a driving force creatively, like producing it and stuff, or did that kind of gradually grow over the seasons?
I think that gradually grew. Yeah. I mean, Vince Gilligan was pretty like had his hands all over everything. I mean, like I flew in for every episode. I had to be there the day before so that they could try on different wardrobes, so Vince could pick which wardrobe.
To approve it.
So he would approve,
So
and that was
from this.
And eventually, he's doing that from LA, and so they're just emailing him picks. But every little bit of it had to be approved by Vince.
Speaking of dedication, right? It's like when it's us being who we are, and me and Ashton, creating our own bubble, our own story.
Right.
Same stuff. When you walked in, you have to making sure, like, okay, the crafty is in the right position. Yeah, there is the coffee that we need, this and cameras. Like you have to.
Yeah.
We interrupt this broadcast to a very important message from Weasel. He wants to tell you all about it.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you all about. Hi.
Perfect segue to tell everybody about our sponsor, one of our sponsors for this episode, and all of Trilogy Media's content. We are very grateful for it, by the way.
Grateful.
Incogni.
Oh my God, Incogni.
What's going on with you in Incogni?
Let's talk about freaking data removal.
Usually you do fingernail removal.
Yes.
Incogni does data removal.
Oh, that was actually accurate. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I just got an email, and basically I was bragging Ashton the other day. I was like, dude, look how many hours I would have spent if I would do this by myself. I have like 300 hours or something like that.
I'm gonna bring mine up. Yeah.
And Ashton, he was like, well, bitch, I'm double.
I'll outdo you.
Exactly. He's so competitive. He was like, 600 hours I would have been doing this. So I just got email from Incogni team, and basically, so one of the requests has been denied because they have to verify the information. And Incogni like, hold my fucking dick. I will verify you on behalf of Artyom Vladimirovich Kulik. They verified exactly, and now my shit got removed. So all these objections, gone.
Incogni, if you're wondering what the fuck he's talking about, Incogni is a service that helps remove all of your personal data from public databases. People talk about all the time about hacking and data breaches and all kinds of illegal ways that criminals will get your info and your social security and your addresses.
But they're forgetting about
a lot of people don't talk about the
things.
fact that there are literally thousands of data brokers that are working. This is what they do: is they collect information from databases, they sell it to other databases. It's called data harvesting, and it happens when your info gets dropped on, like, say, like you say, you fill out a contact form, right? You want to get updates about whatever the hell you're shopping for, right? But then your data, it gets shared and sold amongst companies and data brokers. Before you know it, thousands of data brokers have your information, and that's when you start getting marketing emails and incessant annoying shit from companies you've never even heard of. How did they get my info? Well, it was probably given or sold to them. Incogni helps fight back against this. It lets you take your personal information back from data brokers. It works for you on your behalf in the background, and it's all automated, so you don't have to do anything.
We've been filming new episode, right? We've been busy. We've been making shit happen, and Incogni been working.
Yes,
I'm getting emails. Okay, open your report.
Oh, I have it. You want to? Let's do dick measure.
Oh fuck.
Yeah. So
but I started later, so you cannot compare. We didn't start at the same day.
So I'm more matured and more
because you kept
fleshed out. I'm more experienced. It's good to start anytime, because your info, you will be shocked at how many data brokers have it and are selling it right now as we speak. So this is my latest progress overview from Incogni. They send you updates regularly, saying how many data brokers they've contacted on your behalf, how many have completed the requests. Because you got to remember, especially here in the United States, when these data brokers get a request from you to remove your info, they have to do it. But again, there's thousands of them. So what are you going to sit there and email all of them individually? It'll take you hours. And I'll prove that because right here, total requests sent, at least just on my personal account,
What do you have?
1,280 requests sent.
Fuck, I'm a baby. I'm only 223.
Oh, wow.
All right. How many in progress?
Well, that was requests sent. So
Okay.
completed requests, 1,121. That's 1,121 data brokers that have removed my personal information from their databases because of Incogni.
How many
in
times?
progress, 159 still in progress.
Okay, 71 in progress for me.
I have 75 suppressed entries, which means data brokers
38.
won't re-add you later, you know. Time saved, 840 hours and 45 minutes.
What the fuck, bitch?
Yeah.
114 hours only.
Anyway, it works for you in the background. And just by using our link here at Trilogy, you can get 60% off an entire year. So incogni.com/trilogy. It's linked below. Or if you're listening to this in audio, just go to incogni.com/trilogy. Get started now, get 60% off an entire year, and start taking back your personal information. Not only that, not only does it keep you safer, but it also will significantly cut into the amount of bullshit that you get in email and in the actual mail. All this annoying marketing shit is because your data's been harvested.
Another amazing fact that it's nobody is greedy. You can add up to 3 emails that you can put your email, family members' emails, and also when you put the address, your home address, it's not only the current address that you have that they have to go and verify and remove it. You can put up to past 3 home addresses that you used to live that can go and. You know, people go and just change apartment, but you live in the same building. So you can put your family, you can put your cell phones of people that you love, you can put emails of the loved ones. It's like a family plan. And with Trilogy Media, 60% off link, dude, this is no-brainer.
Do it.
Yeah, just do it.
Incogni.com/trilogy.
/Trilogy.
And thank you, Incogni, for sponsoring.
We love you. Let's rock and roll.
So your first day, Brian was Brian there?
No,
because
no.
yeah, he wasn't in that scene.
Right.
So you're with Aaron, Vince, and
Yeah.
was
yeah.
the first time you
Rodney
met Aaron?
Rush, who plays Combo.
Right.
And it was his first ever time on camera. And
Wow.
That was the
Was that the first day you met all those guys, like
Yeah.
Aaron and everyone?
Yeah. And I didn't really know Aaron from much of anything before. I had seen Van Wilder, but I've totally
The
forgot.
drunk guy in Van Wilder.
Yeah.
That was it. Like, I know you for a second.
I loved your work on Price is Right.
Did you guys rehearse before? Was it a big rehearsal? Like, what was the process?
That was like 16 years ago.
Gosh,
I don't know.
It doesn't feel like a part of the past. It feels so like now. Like I mean,
rehearsal would tend to happen like right before we start shooting, whereas we'd sit down and like the director would have us read it and then okay, now don't say it like that. And then they'd go, okay, everybody come look at these fools do their thing. And they get the camera and the lights all to come watch us do it. So they knew where to put all their stuff. And that was our rehearsal. And then it's like, okay, now you're going.
Were you allowed to improvise a little bit, or everything has to be whatever he wrote? You have to read it word by word.
It was like
comment
Samuel
by-
Beckett. You
pretty
had
rigid.
to
Really?
every
Really?
yeah, everything was scripted.
So you cannot fucking say nothing. You can you want to say something.
did that change over
I
time?
don't have an issue with that. I am perfectly fine with somebody else coming up with all the
That
dialogue.
will be a problem with me.
Yeah, seriously.
I will throw so much.
Did that loosen up at all as the years went on?
I mean, it depended on who was given. There was one line, like in my second episode, I had heard one of the background guys who, for the meth addict kind of characters, he seemed pretty authentic. And he said the line, that's what I'm talking about, and I heard him say that. I was like, hey, can I, after I say, I'm Skinny Pete and he lets me through, can I say that? And they were like, yeah, that's fine. So, I mean, it was, if you had something valid to say, I didn't know, this was like my 6th job on camera, and I didn't know you could ask questions or make suggestions.
You don't want to
My only goal was to not get fired on the set. That was like,
Don't fuck it up.
don't fuck it up. And,
Oh my god, I love that. Do what you've been told. Don't say anything stupid.
I've always wondered about that dichotomy of a show like that where you're on so many episodes or you're a regular on the show, but then you have different directors
Yeah.
with different episodes coming in that didn't direct before. Like you kind of have this synergy, I would imagine.
Different chemistry.
But like you have a different person coming in then telling you to do the same character you've already been doing. Like,
That was
what's that like?
That was it helped really build layers into the character because like we had one director come in and he read Skinny Pete as like this vicious like thug like. And then in the scene where I'm, yo man, I'm slinging mad volume and fat stacking Benjis. You know what I'm talking about? I can't be all about like spelling and shit.
Yes.
oh my God, I love it.
He's like,
You're all hooked, dude.
that director was very like, you know, you're a ruthless, you know, thug. You're gonna slit his throat, and like had that kind of. And others were like, well, you're just, you know, hippie stoner, you know, dude, you know, you just chill, and it just like so. I tried to
you
give
kinda
him
just
what
gotta
they.
You have to have both. You have
Yeah.
to be like that.
Because you're the
mentality.
only one that's played it
Yeah.
every time, but like
Yeah.
you have these different perspectives
Yeah.
leading you.
Yeah, and so you just try and make that fit
Yeah.
and do what you can. It's the first time I'd ever actually been asked to come back for for any role and play a character I've already played.
Mhm.
And I honestly just kind of threw it out there the first episode. I was just like making it up kind of, you know, and like, oh man, yeah, whatever. And then they call me back and I was like, oh shit.
What was that day like when you found that out?
That was kind of hectic. I get a call and my agent says, hey, they want you back for another episode, but
He's always.
you have to join the union. If you can't.
You were in the
I was
union.
not in the union yet
shit.
because I was in Texas, which is a right to work state, and I didn't have to join the union yet. But
Back
this
then, was it just after?
It was just SAG.
Okay.
Just
It wasn't merged.
Yeah, after they
Yeah.
merge. Yeah.
Yeah. It was SAG for this one, and they're like, you have to join the union if you want to continue. I'm like,
working.
and luckily my mother-in-law was like, here.
I just about to
Pay
say
your
because you
union
have to
dues.
bring some cash,
Yeah.
especially
Yeah.
when you join. 2,000 now is
so-
probably 10,000.
I had to
I think it's something like 4,000
It was-
now.
I had to
$3
pay to
grand at
join
the
them
time.
individually, and then they merged like 6 months later.
Yeah, I lucked out of that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, my mother-in-law threw me a bone and paid that for me. It took me 4 or 5 episodes to make that back because I was, you know, making minimum day player wage.
Wow.
But it ended up paying off in the meantime. But actually, I did a show, and after I finished shooting, I came home and I get a call and we messed up. You were supposed to join AFTRA before you could shoot this, and we totally forgot to tell you, so you need to join AFTRA. And I said, well, what are you going to do if I don't? And they were like, what do you mean?
Like a you problem.
sounds a lot like a you problem. 'Cause I do not have.
Excuse me, you don't have to write. I actually, when I first ever joined, it was already same stuff. SAG and then SAG after. Me like this Eastern European kid who's like, being American union actor, this is it.
Right.
So I collected all the fucking singles, $20 bills, any cash that I can. And I
Singles,
was
huh?
singles.
No,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, stripping a lot. Yep, kidding.
Got to do what you got to do.
Spearmint Rhino. Paid for.
So I dress exactly like you are. I put like suit and tie. It's like a big fucking day. You
Right.
joining union in
Right.
America. Like, come on, everybody.
Yeah.
So I brought like a fucking, a lot of cash. So I came to the cashier with all these cash, and they look at me. They're like, "What the fuck is this?" And I was like, "Money. Today is a big day in my life." They said, "Well, go to the fucking bank, deposit, and bring us check."
They wouldn't take your
They
stripper
did
ones
not
to
take
join
my
SAG.
fucking singles.
God.
Oh.
So how
yeah.
did you guys resolve the problem with AFTRA?
Did you have to? So
Who
was it
paid
SAG or
they
was
went, okay, we'll give you a pass this time. and
Oh my
then
gosh.
the unions merged, and
And
I was like, whew, dodged that bullet.
So the first season is shot,
Yeah.
which is shorter. It
Yeah.
was only like 6-7 episodes long,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So you did 2 or 3 episodes of the first
I
season.
think I did 2 in the first.
2.
Yep. You did 4 and 6.
Yeah.
And so news comes that it's renewed, and then you're back. And then, like, was it starting to feel real? Or, like, I guess what I'm saying is over the course of the 5 years, like, at what point did you realize that, holy shit, this is a groundbreaking phenomenon of a show?
And role breaking in Hollywood.
Around
into Hollywood.
season 3, when it got to Netflix, and that's when it really blew up, and we apparently invented binge watching.
It streamed on Netflix, but it was still on AMC.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I didn't realize it was that long ago.
Yeah,
They were
Netflix
doing
was the thing that sort of, I wouldn't say like it saved it, but it definitely catalyzed it dramatically.
Yeah.
Dramatically.
I guess I
it
didn't
was
realize
huge.
that
That's part of the reason why El Camino ended up at Netflix, if I'm not mistaken.
makes sense. Yeah.
and they switched roles. It was going to end up on Netflix first, and then they were going to go show it on AMC after. But what was the question?
Season 3.
It's like you and me. What did you say?
Phenomenon. Season 3. It's
Yeah.
really feeling real. Like, were you getting recognized already at this point? Like,
No,
no?
because I was in Texas, and nobody was thinking about. One, like even my friends in Texas, they tried to watch it and they're like, I can't take you seriously.
What?
Like I just like you're not this guy at all. Like it's hard to watch because every time you come on, I'm like, and so, but in Texas, it was popular, but like nobody expected someone from Breaking Bad to be walking around Fort Worth, Texas.
Yeah.
When I was with Aaron Paul and Matt Jones and we happened to be out in Albuquerque, we'd get swarmed. People would like push me out of the way. And then they'd have to go, that's Skinny Pete. And they're like, the dude with glasses? Like, yeah.
What?
And then then they would go sneak away while everyone's like, oh, it's Skinny Pete. But I kind of stayed away from all of that until season 4. They invited me to the premiere of season 4 here in LA, and I like
You finally got an invite. Yeah.
It's my first time getting invited to anything. I was like, I drove. I've been to a cast part, a rap party because I happened to be there when they were having it.
But not by invitation. Like, hey, this is for you, Charles.
I
Come
wasn't
tomorrow
the
at
one-
9.
Yeah. They didn't know
You just
how
happened
to
to be-
contact my reps, I guess, to ask me to those. But they finally asked me if I'd come to the season 4, and I drove from Texas to LA to do that. And like I got out of my car and paparazzi automatically started taking my picture. And I was like, is this what happens? Is this how it works?
Well, you didn't have this guy yet, so,
Well, my question is, when the show started booming, and I can tell you how many times I was literally until sunrise watching, and I was like, oh, just one more episode. And then with these eyes, you go and
It's
work.
the most it's so addicting.
Unbelievable.
And I didn't even find it until it was probably around the time you were moving to LA, because it was like about to end is when I found it. And then I just was like, it was like a drug itself.
Obsession.
Yeah.
So my question is to you, when everything started like when the whole LA already like obsessed, drug addict about this show, do you think if you will move to LA earlier, that will give you more boost to your career, and booking more roles and talking to more people, connection, casting director, and etc.?
I was kind of stubborn about moving to LA, and someone had told me once, if you can't make it in your own hometown, what makes you think you can make it in LA? And so that was kind of what I was waiting for. But like I mentioned prior to we started recording, while in Texas, while shooting Breaking Bad, I was also in a Terrence Malick film. And Terrence Malick came to me in between shots and said, so why aren't you in LA? And I was like, I just didn't really think. He's like, you'd never stop working if you lived in LA. And I went, I will tell my wife.
Let me talk to my wife.
That's kind of less true now, though, wouldn't you say?
Yes.
I think, I mean, it depends. Look, quality as a performer is going to be appreciated really wherever you are, Like
would you have signed him if he wasn't on his way?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But with a caveat, I don't sign anyone I don't meet in person, though.
Yeah, I got to see it.
Because you just can't, like I said, you just can't advocate. If you're a salesperson, then a lot of reps will just sign people and say, oh, this person's this type, and I can book them on this, book them on that. If it doesn't last long, no big deal. Like, I'm in it to win it for decades. Like I want the stories of, hey, how we did stuff, together, and I want people I'm genuinely worried about when it's not going well, and genuinely happy for when it is going well. And that, to hear Charlie talk about this, for so many years in different interviews over the years, I've had the privilege of being around for some and watching some, but it's always been very consistent where it's like, I know that when it goes well, he's got a lovely family that will benefit from it, and that to me makes me want to work harder on behalf of him, you know, and I also know that when he's working on some of these projects, like he's in the same way you talk about Bryan Cranston, you're that same. I don't think you recognize this. Maybe it takes someone from afar to point this out, but you've become that same sort of leader on set for some of the younger people who need that guidance as well, because work ethic these days, as we all know in this room, is few and far between, you know? So had I met him and he was, you know, living in freaking Bangladesh and he was still the same hardworking guy, I'd be like, yeah, no problem. I'll just be like, hey, just so you know, early on, if they're not going to fly you, they're not going to fly you. So, you know, get some points on your, you know, your airline card.
Yeah, exactly. Well, what was happening was I was in Fort Worth. I had a great reputation here because of Breaking Bad, but nobody had ever met me. Like,
he didn't know. Yeah, he didn't know.
But I was starting to get, for the first time, just straight out offers. And they're like, if you can be here in 3 hours, you can have a part on Sons of Anarchy. And I'm like, I can't even get to DFW Airport in 3 hours.
In 3 hours, yeah.
Another show that I have.
and that,
we had a lot of clients on he was on on Breaking Bad while I had a lot of clients on Sons. And it was a constant point of frustration for me because I was like, I don't know why you're not on Sons right now, because you got me, you got the casting directors who want you on the shows. But again, they'd always do this thing where it's like, we love Charlie. And then it'll always be like, ... And, you know, I will happily take a scale offer to Charlie right now. They're like, okay, well, we'll just wait for something that's right for him. It's like, the whole show is right for him. Look at the show and look at Charlie.
Freaking Alex Bishar.
It could be Charlie's Sons of Anarchy. Yeah. You know?
Well, and does that like, you know, I know some people get like bothered by like a typecast or like, and I know you were stressing to try to depart from that on his thing right after Breaking Bad, but like, did that bother you at all, or was it fun for you to be like, people call you Skinny Pete on the street, or you're Skinny Pete? Like,
yeah, well, I mean, for that character, it's always going to be an honor because that was a great show. I don't love being typecast, but you know, part of my career, I kind of modeled after the Beatles. And it's like you go with what's popular and you go with what gets you in the door. And the typecasting was getting me in the door. And I knew it was just a matter of time before somebody would go, look, well, we can't afford you to play a drug addict, but you want to play someone's dad? And then, you know, bam, I suddenly have an opportunity that I wouldn't have had because I have a resume.
Yeah. And that's also too, because when we had the conversation about the blacklist, that was when, you know, I mean, to his credit at the time, he was very open to the conversation about that, you know. And my whole thesis on it was like, worst case scenario, you're getting it one line, one scene with James Spader. That's the worst case scenario, right? Yeah. And the best case scenario is that this is going to be like a whole different dynamic of, you know, coming off of one hit show and you're now on another hit show that's on a major network. You know, people are going to just like, it'll expand the horizons of the things that you can work on. And then after that came Murder in the First. Yeah. And Murder in the First was a little bit more of a Skinny Pete kind of role, but it wasn't super duper Skinny Pete-ish. I feel like, and you'll have to fill me in on this, but I feel like had Murder in the First come right after Skinny Pete, and had been presented to you in the same way, it may not have been as an exciting of a departure, you know, to do similar roles.
It's interesting because Murder in the First, for me, I wasn't so concerned about the role because of the message that the role was giving, and it was, you know, how unfair the U.S. justice system is. And I was like, I was okay with playing that stereotype because of the message behind that role, which, you know, it's a guy who was, he looked like a thug. So he got taken in and he confessed because he took a rap for a crime he didn't commit because he knew that the justice system was against him. And if he tried to plead not guilty, he'd get a worse sentence than if he just pleads guilty. And so, you know, he just like, yep, that's how it is. And that resonated with me. And so I was like, yeah, I'll make those exceptions. That's if it has, you know, something I want to say in the role. But yeah, I don't want to be pigeonholed. I want to, you know.
Well, and how does your theory, like, how do you approach this just in a general sense too with people that are typecast? Like, there's an argument for like, embrace your typecast because that's how you're going to get work. But then like, also, you don't want to do that for the rest of your life. So like, is what you suggested for him specific to because he was at that point in his career, or is that kind of an overarching way you would approach anyone that is?
It all starts with a basic respect for your client.
Sure.
It really is that simple, because you really want their life to be as happy and healthy as possible for as long as possible, knowing full well how difficult it is to accomplish that in our business, right?
Right.
And so you have to balance what you say to your client and how you say it versus what you know is good sometimes in the long run, you know? And that's why the respect for the client is so important. And that's why it's even more important to only sign people you really enjoy and really like, because then you can speak to them. I speak to you guys very honestly. I speak to Charlie very honestly. I like to think I speak to all of my clients. Sometimes they'll probably tell you I speak to them too honestly. But at the end of the day, there are times where you're going to have to pull that manager card and be like, look, this is enough money that it was worth it for you to sort of, if you're on a high horse about this, it's one thing. If you really are against this particular role or opportunity, it's your career, absolutely. But my career, it's important for me to do the best that I can to advise you and say, look, how this will be perceived either behind the camera or on the camera is more important to your career in the long run than a little bit of discomfort with this particular role in the short term,
Yeah.
But ultimately, if Charlie had said, I don't want to do the blacklist, I don't want to do this one line role, I think I pushed back a little bit at one point. I was like, this is what I think is going to happen, so on and so forth, but I can't guarantee, then that would have been his decision, and then I would have to adapt on the representation side. It's like, and there's things that, I send you guys opportunities on a couple of, on the daily, I'll send you opportunities to have people on this podcast or whatever it might be. And I always start with like, hey guys, what do you think about this? Or some version of that.
Definitely.
Because ultimately,
Let me know, what do you think?
You guys have worked very hard in your business to accomplish this, as Charlie has worked extremely hard to accomplish what he's accomplished. But I also know in the back of my mind, I'll remember, I don't know if clients realize this, but I remember conversations I've had with clients like 10 years ago. And he'll say to me, I've always wanted to do this. And I know that it's not an option right then and there, but I'll file it away. And when this opportunity comes up, hey, he's always wanted to do this kind of thing or whatever it might be. And that informs me a lot, where I'm like, okay, you said 10 years ago that you wanted to do this kind of thing. Is that still the case? Because if it is, you got an opportunity. They're going to pay you shit for it, but you got the opportunity right now, just so you know.
Well, that's exactly what I was about to say. Matthew McConaughey, in one of his interviews, that's exactly what he said. He was like, I'm always playing this, this guy and romantic pieces.
leads,
And he was like, fuck, I want drama. I want something fucking drug addict. I just want something huge. And for 2 years, it was quiet. He was like, I turned down so much money, so many roles, and to the point where it was like, fuck, I need to pay the bills. And here there is a, producer and production company offering me so much money, again, to go back where I came from. And he didn't, and he held it. And that's where the
Dallas Buyers Club. Yeah. But I guarantee you, he had real conversations with his reps in those 2 years, and I guarantee you, they said, "This is how you lose a house in 2 years." How to lose a guy in 10 days to how to lose a house in 2 years. I guarantee, because you guys would love to see how when we hang up the phone with clients, you can always tell who's a good rep by how they react when they hang up the phone, when they get a no on a certain project, right? And I've seen it happen where they either hang up and they go, fucking idiot, or they hang up and be like, all right, we got to find the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
But, because people think like, okay, I'm an actor and this is it. There is a whole fucking team from management, agencies, publicists, and it goes on and on and on. Everybody get that big piece of pie, everybody get a cut. And if he's not working for 2 years, nobody getting paid, right? And then people start forgetting you, losing interest. And it takes a lot of balls to like, you know what? I know what I want. It will come.
But that's the thing too, is a lot of clients think like we don't ever lose interest. Like you're on like, I shouldn't speak for everyone, but for me, I can tell you, I don't ever lose interest in clients. If you're not, I even have clients who have, I've either dropped them like 10 years ago or whatever it might be. They're still in my mind because at one point, they're nice people. I want good things to happen for them. And I've literally called up clients who I don't work with anymore and be like, hey, listen, there's a thing I saw. Just make sure your rep is submitting you on this one because it bothers me that, you got to be on this thing. Like the Sons of Anarchy thing. I was just like, stop not putting Charlie on Sons of Anarchy.
Did you ever do Sons of Anarchy?
No, I booked like 3 episodes, but then they unbooked me like the night before on 2 of them. And
we had I won't even say what show it is.
It ended with them like, we promise we're going to give you a
This happens so often. And that's why it's like the problem with being being a representative that likes his clients is that it hurts when something goes wrong for them. It's like a business version of having like kids or family that you like, God, I wish that had happened to me, because then it wouldn't hurt so bad, right? But we even had this situation, I won't say the show recently, but it's a big show that every client wants to be on. It's just like a show that,
What is it? What is
Spill the
it?
beans.
Yeah.
It's Law and Order. All right.
Okay.
So we get an offer for Law and Order. Nice, solid offer. Great role. Easy peasy. We're so excited. I was like, I'm gonna pretend that this was all me on this one. We're there. We're negotiating. We go right back. We have the offer on paper. We go back. Hey, just negotiating little things like, what about this flight or that little stuff.
Right.
And then 30 minutes later, they pull the offer because Dick Wolf, who it's his show, he can do what he wants. But Dick Wolf says, what did he say? He said, we need to get someone who's physically bigger. Yeah. Physically bigger. And we're like, you knew who you were hiring. You made the offer. It's not like he's a noob, right? And so, it's funny because the casting director had been dealing with his agent for the offer, just because they knew to send it to the agent because the agent was going to do the negotiation. But when they had to tell someone that they're pulling the offer, they called me. Casting called me to tell Charlie this. And I was like, well, thanks, man.
Perks of being a manager.
Right, exactly.
That
So I was
sucks.
like, right. So and this is the moment where it's like, I could have emailed him, and I was like, no, I always call him up and be like, hey, man, just so you know, the next thing's coming. I don't know what they're thinking over there, but I can't argue with Dick Wolf. But even though that happened, we had a friend who works at my company, and she knew some of the folks over at Dick Wolf Productions, and I said, know anyone over at Dick Wolf? I want to get this back for Charlie. That's like that. And we put all the tentacles out we could, but Dick Wolf is just one of those people where it's like when he makes a decision, he makes a decision. So it's like it would have been like telling Bryan Cranston or Vince Gilligan like, hey, have so and so back on the show. It would really mean a lot. And it's like, nope, sorry, it's our show. We do what we want.
I think that,
and no matter how much of a superstar you are, you'll get rejected.
Oh, it happens to everyone. It happens to everyone.
It's not personal.
It's not
personal. I take it personally all the time.
Of course, we all do.
Dick Wolf has a picture of Charlie with darts in it.
Even my 13-year-old was, what a dick.
You're like, yeah, of course he is. It happened to me. I booked TV show Teen Wolf, and it's specific role. Eastern European guy, you have to remove those fingernails. You have to
playing Eastern European.
I know. It's so fucking. I don't know. So everything is amazing. Ready and action. So I'm delivering lines, everything amazing, and the director is like, all right, stop. He coming to me. All right, so fucking get rid of this fake accent and full English. Like, no accent. And I'm like, and crickets, right? I was like, what do you mean? He was like, yeah, well, I don't want anymore. I want it's like in English. No accent. I was like, I can't. You specifically booked me as an Eastern European mafia guy. I can't be full American.
Like when they told Wolverine to put his claws down. Put the knives down. It's like, I can't.
So she was like, he went, said something, people talked to him, and they're like, all right, fucking go.
But this happened with you. Remember Countdown? David Rappaport, lovely casting director, love him to death. But I had this guy audition for Countdown. You could literally count down how many using your auditions 5 different times for almost the same role. Yeah. And the 6th time they wanted to have you in, I wrote to David. I was like, David, haven't you seen enough of him? Don't you want to just like offer it to him? And he writes back, okay, And then I was like, okay, what? It's like, yeah, we've seen enough. I was like, they never called us back.
Oh my God.
They never called us back on this show.
God.
And then, by the way, David, do you know why they never had Charlie on Sons of Anarchy?
Oh my God. David booked me on my very first role on 90210, like 50 years ago.
Unbelievable.
But it's great.
That's
Again,
insane.
it's one of those things that you can be frustrated, but when everything lays out and everything perfect, you're like, you know what? All this hassle, all this shit, it was worth it.
It feels good. It's like Stockholm Syndrome, man.
Yeah.
I tell you,
God.
like you do this stupid stuff for so long, and it's like, we're all like, I tell everyone all the time, we're on the campus together. We're just majoring in different things, like that's it. And sometimes you just meet in the quad and you play hacky sack, and that's exactly what's going on pretty much right now.
Yes.
And it's like you're just so damn happy when good stuff happens to good clients that you're like, God, that was worth it. All right, I'll do another 6 months of this gig, that type of thing. That's fantastic.
Can we talk about meth? Or is it-
Oh shit! Okay,
and that's what we call a segue. Speaking of meth,
Speaking of math,
what was it? How did you like all the drug simulations? Like what is that like on a
It was
set?
rock candy.
Yeah?
It was, different flavored, like cotton candy and
Did you ever
blue
eat it?
raspberry. All the time.
Really?
Aaron Paul got addicted to snorting this stuff.
What about when you're like smoking it and like pipes and like what is
It
that
depends
process
on
like?
I never actually had to smoke it.
Yeah.
I smoked their fake weed, herbal weed that they had.
Yeah. Do you have like a drug consultant, like someone that knows how to smoke meth, tell you how to smoke meth? Like,
I'm pretty sure they did, but I think they call him the sound guy.
oh.
Sorry,
Fair
sound
enough.
guys. I did not mean that.
Fair enough.
From my understanding, a lot of the producers or creators, writers on the show have had experience in life.
Sure.
And,
Of course.
And then, yeah, they did have several consultants for things. I never needed a consultant for the weed smoking one.
There you go.
I've seen
I just
it.
brought my
I've
experience.
Heard, I've heard things.
I've heard.
And yeah, there was rules for a while. We got some really fun like notes from
Stop eating it and
no, it would be like we can't see. We can only see you inhale or exhale in a shot. We can't see you inhale and exhale in a shot because that shows people too much of how you do it. And like
what?
That's the legal notes
Yeah.
that come from the network.
Oh, there was
As
so
though you
much
wouldn't
better.
know
It
what's
was
the
like,
opposite.
the cussing memo was
You would be surprised
the
how
greatest.
even in the you would be surprised when it comes to drugs and nudity. You sometimes have to negotiate like a third of a nipple that you're allowed to see.
Well, and even like the F word, like you
Oh,
get
that
one
was-
per episode or something.
The
or how's it-
cussing memo was it was a corporate memo, but it's like, okay, so you get one fuck or two shits, or if you don't use your fuck, you can use three shits and
Oh my God.
You're not
asshole.
kidding.
No,
No,
not
no.
at all.
This is fucking
was-
real?
It
Yes.
was the most glorious
like rollover
memo.
minutes for
Well,
your
like,
for
yeah.
your old cell phone.
Well, like Hank Schrader's final line.
If
when he
anybody
says,
has a copy of that memo, please
Oh
send
my
it to
God.
me and prove this was the greatest memo I'd ever
believe
seen.
it. I mean, when you're
It's
not
like,
when you're on a network, like they put the I don't know, it's crazy.
There's two
but
fucks for a shit and three shits for a damn.
What?
and,
remember
like,
Hank
it was-
Schrader's final line was to Jack, Uncle Jack. You know, you can go fuck yourself. You know, like
Yeah.
He
wasn't
made
that
up
like
he made up his mind.
Yeah.
Hours
There was
ago.
that one F word for the season or whatever
Yeah.
the rule was.
All
you
right,
know?
overtime. One more overtime for
They-
fuck
It
word.
seems like we had one point where they had us do a scene where it's like, "Oh, say fuck in this line in this take,
and this is it.
but don't say it in the next take just in case
Just to
we've
have an
gone over
extra
our quota."
option.
You
Oh
know,
my
it's like it was a
God.
it was a beautiful, such a beautiful corporate memo.
I have a question for you. Shooting the finale,
Uh-huh.
how did you get that script? And like, obviously it was a closed set. Was it just like no phones? Like everyone was just like on eggshells, like not
Yeah.
trying to leak what's going on because
Yeah.
it's the biggest finale in TV history.
Yeah, it was like a classified document.
Yes.
Wow.
I got my lines and the other person's lines and then black.
Really?
And black. I didn't know. Okay, so when we get in the car
With the laser pointers.
with the laser pointers and we hand the laser pointers to Walt, I had no idea why we had those. And we're like, why do we have these? They're like, don't worry about it.
No
like,
said anything to you.
No.
What? And you're
Had
like,
no
I'm
idea.
a regular on this. And they're still like,
Nope.
Working together that long and they still won't tell you.
Yeah, there was all.
That's such an
all
iconic
hush-hush.
scene,
I had
too.
no idea. They're like, just hand these to him and then do the scene.
and
Like,
it gives you the cash.
and they kind of made it like, yeah, just make sure that you flash it into the camera. And like, okay, well, don't worry about it. And like, okay. Like,
So
I'm not-
overprotected.
I mean, by then you're like, whatever Vince wants.
Yeah.
you know,
And that
that's
episode
fine.
was the last episode of live TV I watched that I actually went home and watched live when it aired. That was the
Yeah.
last. Everything else from then on in my life has been.
It was already young.
Streamed or
I watched it
something,
with
yeah.
my family, and I'll never forget it because we were like standing up watching this show.
So
Yeah.
when did you found out when it was on the air?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you never got to read the whole finale
Oh, no,
script.
No,
you never
not
got to
to
put your eyes
see-
on it.
Not.
They only really, I probably think they gave
They
it
only
to
sent me
Brian
the
and to
pages.
Aaron, and that's pretty much it.
And
And even
didn't Brian's get stolen? Weren't you telling
That's
me
what
that?
I heard. A rumor like out of his
Yeah,
car.
he left it in his car, and it was on an iPad though. I don't know if they actually got
Oh my God.
into the script, but yeah, that it was very hush hush. I literally got like 2 pages with just mine and
Pitch
Badger's
black, pitch
dialogue,
black.
and then
So how
blacked
do you give context to your part if you don't know what the hell's going on? Like,
you just it's one big trust fall, you know, just like all this industry. You just go, you know, they said just don't worry about it, just come in and say your lines.
don't worry about it.
And that was one of the things early on in Breaking Bad. I was reading getting ready for a scene, and I go up to the writer and I'm like, the way these lines are written, it seems like, you know, between the lines I could mean, and he's like, no, just say the lines.
Just do it. Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
mean anything
You
between.
want to bring more to it,
Right.
but you yeah.
Yeah,
Oh my
you're like,
gosh.
you don't need to. And so I just, from then on, I'll just say what they tell me
Yeah.
to say, and you know,
That's a good thing about having a team around you on set like that,
Yeah,
because you after a while you understand everyone there is in it to win it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a
Trusting each other.
yeah, absolutely.
yeah. And by that time, we all knew, like, there was the fear of like, how is this? None of us knew how it was going to end, and like that was like, how are they going to? They're going to nail this,
Would
right?
you like speculate between takes with Badger? Like I think it's this or that, or like was there any of that element, or was it you just
we
there to do
kept
it?
hearing rumors, but I think they were actually throwing out a bunch of false rumors, so that they
bet,
could,
yeah.
it's like
Curveball. That's what's gonna happen. He's gonna get
Yeah, it's like, did you see Bryan Cranston just covered in blood? They just like had like poured blood all over it. Like
Oh my god.
Did you keep any props or anything? Were you able to do that? Like, did you? Yeah. Like,
No.
No,
No.
you didn't take any.
I was like, did
memos?
you keep the laser pointer? I was like, I watched the finale last night. I was like, I wonder if he grabbed that laser pointer.
that would have been a smart thing to do. I took one of the posters when Walter was missing. Because it was in the trash, and I was like,
Yeah.
but again, it goes back to
nothing that somebody handed to you. It's like, all right.
It goes back to the I just wanted a job. I don't want to.
Yeah, you don't
want
wanna stir the pot.
Anything.
Yeah.
And I joked. I was at a Dallas Comic-Con sitting next to Giancarlo Esposito, and it's like I've never met him before, and now we're doing a Comic-Con panel together.
Because you never did any scenes with him.
No,
Wow.
no. And so I mentioned, someone asked me if I stole the hat, and I was like, no. Like, I asked them if I could have it, and they told me that they were saving it for the Smithsonian, and I was like, oh. And Giancarlo goes, they tell you that, they say that all the time.
To scare you. Yeah.
Like, don't, next time, just take the fucking thing.
Just ask for forgiveness
So
instead
El
of permission.
Camino, I did keep it, but I told him, like, hey man, I'm going to keep this, so you better have extras. And they're like,
But
okay.
now I gotta say, Charlie's got one of the best man caves I've ever seen, because he's got, you go over to his place and he's got this just decked out. Is it a garage? Is it a
It's
secondary house?
Someone built an addition to the garage.
Yeah.
in the back.
You never
of the
left
garage.
LA since that day that you came with the trailer. Like, you've been in LA ever since.
Well, I mean, other than for work.
Well, traveling. I mean, but
Yeah.
you never lived anywhere. You never
Not
left-
since then.
Wow.
No. Unless 12, 13 years.
He does have the beanie though from a skit from the Jimmy Kimmel show. The Jimmy Kimmel show.
Yes.
So
That's so
Yeah, they made one for me.
yeah,
And so
Heat
that
and
was
Meat
my-
with Skinny Pete.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
Question for you.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing all these stories.
Yeah, seriously.
I'm having a blast.
People-
Behind the scenes and everything
are,
that.
like, our channel is about something totally different, but I know there's a lot of people,
Oh my
especially
God.
us
Kidding
being
me?
kind of our background of what brought us to do what we do, even though it's not really related to TV. We have a lot of people watching that are going to
Right on.
love this.
Right
So-
on. My brothers were also scammers besides being drug addicts. So, you know.
Oh, shit.
I mean, they weren't good scammers.
Oh,
That's why they were in prison.
Gotta hear that story.
No,
Everyone should know.
He was like, it stays in the family.
I know scammers. So.
Oh, boy.
All right, question for
yeah,
you.
go
I
ahead.
would like to talk about your perspective of what pitfalls, we don't have to do it now, but scams in this industry and what things to look out for and stuff. But go ahead,
Yeah.
sorry, I'll cut you off.
No. Again, being in this town almost 15 years and working on different shows and projects, everybody so obviously not having yet experienced that we were blessed to have and stuff. And everybody, when you start working with crew, right? Crew, your actors, your partners, everybody fucking the best friends. When the day when show is done, everybody, I love you, brother, call me, drinks, yeah, your family, my family. And then fucking crickets. You text person, you know how Hollywood works.
Yeah.
You text person.
Oh, no, dude,
nothing-
we're just show friends.
Yeah, exactly. So my question to you is, and I saw the amazing work that you guys did during the strike with Aaron and Brian.
Right.
So my question is, are you able to text right now?
No. I might be able to text Aaron now. He's changed phone numbers so much.
Or who did you stay connected with afterwards? I guess even more broader question.
From Breaking Bad, not on a regular basis. Nobody really.
Birthdays? Anybody? Did you get any messages from Aaron? Like,
I've been to a couple of Aaron Paul's birthdays.
Nice.
And
was there like a big group chat throughout filming the show? Like
no,
not really.
No.
We wish you guys were best friends and hang out every day.
He's biting his tongue, brother. He's biting his lips.
What do you want to say?
Say it.
No. It's funny because like these folks, from my perspective, are exactly who you'd expect them to be, and at the same time, not at all who you'd expect them to be. Like Giancarlo threw me off like crazy. That guy who says so much without saying anything on the show is the biggest clown, like not in a bad way, like just a clown or like a class clown type I've ever seen, you know. I think because he just had pent up excitement to like meet people and socialize or whatever it might be. But you know, when from an outsider's perspective, when this cast gets back together, because I was there on with everyone, and my company was there for the SAG strike and all that kind of stuff. And boy, they get together, and the Better Call Saul folks too. It's kind of like a mutual respect kind of vibe that goes on. It's like, okay, Harvard and Yale, but you know, we all worked hard to get here, kind of thing. But there's a rivalry, but we all worked hard to get here, you know? And it's funny how it kind of all just locks into place, and then they dissolve in like a very respectful way, and then they come back together again for whatever, you know, the reunion is.
It's like family reunion.
Yeah, it's like a family reunion.
We got real close. We're really good friends. We just don't really talk to each other outside of.
But when you reunite, it's like nothing changed. You know?
Yeah, and I think it's partly my military Brad experience. You know, I'm not used to having, like, I moved from a state, I leave a school full of friends, and I never see them again. Yeah. And like, we didn't have internet and email and.
I ran into Aaron Paul on a lunch break with one of my interns who had just started at the company, and she was like, just over the moon Breaking Bad fan at that point. I mean, just almost to the point where I thought about not introducing them just as a quick. It was like, might be a bit of a like a social liability, that type of thing. and so, but Aaron was super nice. You know, it was this little spot on Sunset Boulevard, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm Charlie Baker's man. I was like, oh yeah. What's up? Tell him what's up. You know, like, love that guy. You know, that kind of thing. Yeah, bitch.
Great, Aaron.
Yeah, and I was like, God, and I so badly just want to be like, you are you. Like, this is you, you know? And I had to try and keep it cool to try and be cool in front of my intern and all that kind of stuff. And then weirdly, that same intern down the line actually produced a short film that Charlie was in recently for Warner Brothers, which is where I started my career. Really strange, small world. So it's like, when people say, like, do they keep in touch? It's kind of like you guys are always bonded.
Yeah.
Kind of like by show Bluetooth, you know, like you guys are like Bluetooth bonded. You don't hang out like all the time, but neither did Aaron and Brian. Like they would do like business ventures together and what have you. But I would be like, when I saw Aaron, like this was 8 years ago or whatever, I'd be like, hey, do you see Brian a lot? I was like, yeah, no, not really. You know, like, yeah, he's, you know.
It's a good impersonation.
Yeah, it's like that kind of stuff.
I mean, you see him on social media a lot with the mezcal.
Yeah,
like,
I just about to say that.
You would think that they're together
they,
a lot.
Are they like bonded? Because you see them together everywhere.
I don't think they're joined at the hip the way they look like on the internet, but I mean
they spend so much time together.
Yeah,
they just naturally are.
They're business partners now.
People think they have bunk beds, you know.
That's Art and Ashton. They have bunk beds, actually.
God, we used to.
Alex, please back me up. Maybe it was 9-10 o'clock, and I already see what's going on. There is, you know, cross-country promotion between Aaron and Brian, right? And with these tequila, you know, whatever they like. Mezcal, right? Yeah. And I was like, look at these motherfuckers. This duo, you see? They already have their drink. And I sent in group message to Alex and Ash, and I was like, hey, what is fucking Trilogy drink? Alex, make shit happen. We need our own drink.
And I did. I started looking into it. And like, but it's funny because, you know, Ashton's more reasonable with the texts, like, hey, what do you think about this? Like, that kind of, he'll be, and Charlie, thank God, because you're super reasonable too. You two are very similar. You are not. I'll get a text from Art at like 1 a.m. and his texts sound like him, you know, somehow.
His texts have an accent, you know, and one sentence takes 4 bubbles.
Yeah, absolutely. And and he'll be like, Alex, we should get Trilogy private plane, you know, and I'll be like, I agree with you in theory, you know, but how do you feel in practice, you know, whatever it might be. But again, But then this gets back to what we were talking about. Like they'll say something like, and then from 10 years past, when a client mentions it, I'll be like, okay, log that away. Don't know what to do about the alcohol brand right now, but it's gonna come up.
But it's gonna come up. Yeah.
Somebody that understands me finally. What I've had to put up with all these years.
I see. Like again, it's one of those things.
I will say one thing I was super keen on, and I've still got this for Charlie. That when there was when they started their mezcal brand, I was like, how are we not doing a Skinny Pete margarita?
Oh.
After Skinny Girl margarita was such a huge, how are we not doing a Skinny Pete margarita? And Charlie, to his credit, he was like, I think because they own the character, we can't very well go and,
the trademark.
But I was like,
trademark of Skinny Pete.
let's make it a spin-off brand, Brian and
But that's
Aaron.
like his brain as a business owner.
I tell you.
And it was like, I was like, hey, we business owners, we have a brand, we have our amazing squad. I was like, what is our product? What is our fucking
a
scotch?
Skinny Pete margarita with blue salt on the rim, blue meth salt on the rim.
On the
Oh my
rim.
God,
Yeah.
it's so good. I want to ask you one more Breaking Bad question before, because I do want to make sure we talk about your book, because I'd love to know more about that. Okay. But what was it like being directed by Brian the first time? And that dynamic of, like I was saying earlier about, earlier on, he may not has been as much of a driving producer force, but then he was directing. And then is he in character as he's directing you? Like, what was that like the first time that happened?
Honestly, I'm not sure I was in any episodes that he directed.
Yeah. Blood Money.
Blood
he
Money.
directed.
Okay. Well, when he did direct, I know he showed up wearing the poofy director pants and beret, and he had a monocle. And
he was joking or not?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he was Brian. He was just being Brian.
Oh my God.
I'm gonna show you. Okay.
But he was playing director, and so he showed up as the director. And there's a great picture of him in his trailer with all of that, just leaning up. He's awesome. I mean, I mean, Malcolm in the Middle, I knew his stuff, and I saw how much this show meant to him, because it was giving him an opportunity to break that Malcolm in the Middle character. And he was, I followed what he did. If I was on set while he had a scene, I would stand back and watch the monitor, just how is he doing this? And that's, like I said, I learned from him how to ask questions and how to put yourself in and make suggestions. And it was really him kind of opening my eyes to that and going, so he let us do our thing. I barely remember what it was like. He was
just made sense.
He was just it just made sense. He was the dude. He knew what he was doing. He knew what he liked. One of our episodes in the nuclear museums, the first times he and I were having a scene, and the second time we had a scene together, and
which is, by the way, a meme now on X and on Instagram. That's Church Yo.
I think
We've been saying it since that year. That's Church Yo.
Yeah.
And it's and at one point he came to me and said, "Hey, give me that line a little bit faster when you get in the scene." And I'm like, "You got it, Brian."
Okay, but does he stay in the character, in the scene? Is he can you see a switch in between? I've always been fascinated by actors who then direct while they're also in the scenes. It's just
different person, right?
The most iconic thing I've ever seen any actor do was joke around with the cast about stuff and they go, action, and then he looked down and watched Jane die. And tears start strolling down his eyes, and then they cut, and he goes, "Hey, anybody else want to hit?" I mean, it was that quick. It was that quick. I mean, that was.
And that is one of the most heartbreak that. Oh, that gives me chills.
I watched that from behind the scenes on backstage, just going, "Oh my God!"
Wow!
But to see him
was the interior of Jane's was that a studio? Did they go inside that duplex, or was that?
Oh, my memory. I think that was inside the duplex.
Wow!
We were out on location at that point. It's been a long time.
El Camino 5 years later, was it hard to get back into character, or was it just like riding a bike?
It was just like riding a bike. It was almost like
was
just
it really 5
going
years?
Back in time.
Dude, shit.
Half a decade?
Yeah, it was.
Well, from 2013 when Breaking Bad wrapped, when the movie, when you guys would film it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was just
a
like,
dream.
yeah, that's awesome.
I also noticed in El Camino last night that when they show Los Pollos Hermanos, it's Twisters, which is the real restaurant.
Yeah.
Like they use the real name of the real restaurant. I just found that interesting.
Yeah.
That was the last premiere we went to before the lockdowns too. Was the El Camino premiere? That was it was really nice weather that night too. I always remember that.
Yeah.
All right, so listen to these,
Listen to these,
ladies
This is
and
biblical.
gentlemen.
Okay, you got to understand what we're about to tell you about Surfshark.
Biblical?
You said the. Listen to the, like you're like you're fucking writing Shakespeare or some shit.
All right. No, this is very, very fucking simple.
It is.
One of the methods of bad people to get in your computer, in your network, in your cell phones, in any devices that you have, is through public Wi-Fi and internet. They want to see where you're at, your current location, everything that are associating with you. Scammer want to know, what are you doing right now? Are you in Trilogy Media office? Are you in a coffee shop? Are you in LAX International Airport and using public Wi-Fi? What the fuck are you doing? The best thing that can happen to you is fucking put that VPN in your ass. Because
That's one way to say it. But yes,
I was in Albania for 5 days. You
Yeah?
know, scammers thought I'm Albanian
no wonder you
mafia.
didn't reply to my text.
There's only one problem.
Ah,
I cannot watch ESPN because it's American.
well then just
app.
click one button and come back to America.
Exactly.
That's what you can do with
That's
Surfshark.
exactly what I did.
You should be using a VPN nowadays more than ever to protect yourself, keep yourself anonymous online, keep your IP address hidden so hackers and shit can't just get a hold of all your information. Excuse me. Oh my god, I'm choked up about this. I really do feel passionate about this though. You should be using a VPN to browse online. This episode, along with everything else we do here at Trilogy Media, is sponsored by Surfshark. Surfshark and Incogni are our friends, our family, and they
Brothers
are
and sisters.
at the forefront of keeping yourself safe online, which this whole channel, although we have guests on this podcast all the time that have nothing to do with scam baiting, but this channel in general is all about keeping yourself safe, exposing bad people, exposing pitfalls that you might have online. The best way to protect yourself from scams is to keep them from happening in the first place. And having basic forethought and due diligence when you're on the internet is important. You can't avoid everything by yourself. You know, you might accidentally click on things and make mistakes. Everyone does, and anybody can be scammed. But you should be protecting yourself. You should be keeping your location private, keeping your IP address private, and you can do that with Surfshark VPN.
I just want to add something that we came across so many times when we dealt with the victims or dealing with the victims, talking to law enforcement, FBI, different agencies, and they said every single time when we talk to victims, they will say, yeah, I was on the phone with a police officer, which is fucking bullshit. It was a scammer. And scammer, knowing exact her location, he knows it from exactly which number he can spoof. So it will be a closest police station to the victim. So it's so much stuff happening. You're literally naked. You exposed. You cannot be naked online unless you Ashton.
Who wants to be naked online?
So
what I do in my own private time is none of your concern.
That's right. That's why after
but
midnight.
Whatever I'm doing it with Surfshark because it's the best way to keep yourself anonymous online.
And people that you love.
We think they're the best VPN. You can certainly get the best deal you can find by using our link, which is surfshark.com/trilogy. It's going to get you already they're a crazy affordable VPN, but you're going to get 4 extra months for free just by using our link, surfshark.com/trilogy.
And obviously, in America, you can use shit and return shit. So
you're not going to need to. You're not going to want to.
But we have to say it.
There is a 30-day money-back guarantee just for the piece
you're
of.
Not gonna.
Anyway,
you're not going to use it.
Also, the cool thing, I think, one of the best things about Surfshark is that you can connect unlimited devices under one single account.
How many devices?
5. No, I'm just kidding. Unlimited. 5 devices is a joke from one of our scam baits, but it's not limited to 5. You can have as many as you want. And a lot of people have multiple devices. You got a computer, you got your phone, you got your iPad,
fridge.
you got your fridge.
Fridge, yeah, you have your dishwasher.
Doesn't cost you anything extra. One Surfshark account protects all of them. You have an app for your phone or an app on the computer. You can literally push one button. It takes 2 seconds and your virtual location is instantly changed, which has some extra benefits to it other than just privacy. If there's some geo-restricted content that you want to access, if there's a certain version of Netflix in a different country that has a show you want to watch, you just change your location in the app and boom, it's right there.
And also if you do use that app, as you should, you can set up alert, and that alert
There's tons of other features in Surfshark other than just VPN. So Surfshark Alerts, Surfshark Antivirus, Surfshark Search.
when you turn that alert on, and you can see get notified if your personal info is leaked. Scan for breaches databases, automatically monitoring emails, credit cards, and personal IDs. It's one of the features that you have under one umbrella, Surfshark. And come on, 4 months on a house? I mean, sign me fucking
Get
up.
Get it, like it, lick it, love it.
Lick it, love it.
We don't encourage people to scam bait, but we use it for scam baiting all the time just to keep, just as an extra precaution. But just from day-to-day life, you should be using a VPN and you should be taking these precautions to protect yourself.
Next time, if I never lied, but if I want to lie to Ash and I'm going to say, hey, bitch, I'm right now in Maldives. And he was like, share your location. I'm going to be in fucking Maldives. And he was like, are they saying truth? He's in Maldives right now, naked, swimming with sharks.
Please go swim naked with sharks.
Yeah.
Yeah, do it. And send me the footage.
No, then,
As long as it's Surfshark, I don't mind. So get Surfshark, get 4 extra months for free just by using our link, which is surfshark.com/trilogy. It's already extremely affordable, and it's a tiny little price to pay.
And you supporting Trilogy?
Yeah. And you're supporting Trilogy. They sponsor Trilogy. If you like our content, then come on, use a link. They know we sent you. At least there's that. Yeah. So we love you guys so much. And thank you to Surfshark for sponsoring.
Since you brought directors, I actually have my question. Right? So let's talk about Kevin Costner.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, baby.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna again, we all have background. My background is different than your background, Americans.
You don't say.
Yeah, you don't say.
Surprising.
So, surprisingly, right? So after Soviet Union collapse, we start receiving all these fucking action movies, blockbusters, and me as a teenager, so I was like, I first time I ever saw Kevin Costner from Waterworld.
Oh,
you remember that movie?
Yeah.
Yes.
As a teenager, I was like, I think it's a new 2.0 of why I'm blinking right now. Aquaman, right? It's like kind of new version of Aquaman, but no hair, but blue eyes. So I saw that movie. Then I saw Robin Hood, right? And it's like, and then him becoming a director.
Yeah.
So how's your experience? And how is he on set as a director?
Oh, he's just great. I mean, it's amazing. He's the first in my long career. I rarely get asked to come to table reads and that kind of rehearsal. And Kevin flew the whole cast into Utah to come to his house to sit down with the script and read it all together 3 or 4 times, a day for a weekend. And was just so encouraging, so open to interpretation. And then, if he knew he wanted something, he told you what he wanted out of it and then let you go with it. And was he was great. I loved working with him. And, it was amazing. And
that's cool.
There were times when he'd want to show another actor how he wanted the scene to work with me, and so he would take the other actor's place, and I'm suddenly doing a scene with Kevin Costner. Like, oh my god, this is the craziest.
Right.
But he has a vision. He is extremely passionate about what he does, and he is so kind and generous. And
that's amazing.
The thank you I got leaving, I felt like I'd just gotten an Oscar myself. Just the way he treated me for just doing my job.
How many shooting days did you have on that show?
I only had 2 or 3 days for that one. It was real simple.
Yeah, that was Cam.
Right?
Yeah. And that I don't think Chapter 2's dropped yet.
No. We had a premiere in Santa Barbara just recently that I forgot to go to, but it hasn't gotten released.
Did you say you forgot to go to?
It was kind of a last minute thing. And I thought I had more time to
get a text from Kay Costner. Charlie, where you at?
Hey, Charlie, you come 20 minutes.
I thought we had a real connection.
What's funny is I got invited to part 1, to the premiere for part 1 that was here in LA. And I went to that and I felt like I was I'm just standing in the corner hi. And they're like, what are you doing here? I don't know. I come in next movie. Yeah. And I didn't get invited to it. I just heard about it. And one of my friends who's also in part 1 was like, are you going to go? I'm like, I don't know. I'll think about it. And then the next day I get a text from somebody who was there. It's like, man, you're great in this movie. I'm like, oh, that's happening right now. I should have tried. I missed out on it. But I hear it's better than the first one. So
it's a very ambitious project.
Very
for sure. Very ambitious project. And I think that one, like I said, from an outsider's perspective, because the experience that he has is obviously more thorough than what I have with it. Once they're working on it, sometimes I'll do a set visit and what have you, but that one to me felt like, boy, regardless of whether this is appreciated for the scope of it, the scope is very admirable. Like, and to do that level of project with that many people who are all really substantial actors, and to hear him now just say how much there was respect on that set was really amazing. It says a lot about Kevin Costner too.
I'm just about to say that that's why everybody work with the same people, same directors with the same actors. And sometimes when you have somebody that you not like look up for, but something that you grew up with, right? Again, like, Robin Hood movies, when you're like, I want to be a fucking Robin Hood, and I want to be him. And then you meet people and you're like, son of a bitch, wow, why did I even talk to him? It's
intimidating.
Yeah,
it really is. It's just
what has been. I was going to ask, what has been your like most, not like feeling of starstruck, but what has been the biggest moment for you? And you look back at waiting tables and that moment of hiding from who you thought was your son, to like, oh my God, I'm here right now. Like, has there been a moment on set or a person you've worked with that's just been the most? You take a deep breath and you're just like, holy shit.
I had so many of those that are just. There was a point where I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm Keanu Reeves' bodyguard. Like I'm D1. I'm his bodyguard, Neon Demon. It's like, and Keanu, he walks in the room. He's like, "Yo, hi, I'm Keanu." Like, I know, I am very much aware.
And by the way, that impression works so much better with your hair longer.
Yeah, and I just want to say that, and I have the same hair, Keanu.
Because he always did a very good Keanu impression, but with the hair, man, sells it.
Is he as genuine as you see online?
Yeah. He's so much more. Like,
everybody's saying that he's the chillest, the humblest, the nicest. Takes subways, helping people, and just.
Yeah, if it's all a PR stunt, then he's committed to the PR stunt.
He is committed.
Did he gift you a Ducati like he did with everyone on The Matrix?
I wish. No Ducatis. But I got to, he and I sang "Happy Birthday" to Dakota, to Elle Fanning.
Oh.
Because we're the three that were on set at the time, and so that's a moment that really stuck in my head. It's like, me and Keanu are singing off key to Elle Fanning right now.
I'd have to say too, though, like, I don't know if this is probably special for you too, but there was that moment at the Conan O'Brien show at the end of Breaking Bad that was for me one of my most amazing career moments. Just sitting back and watching you guys. I was in the green room with the entire cast of Breaking Bad at the time of its peak popularity, right before the finale is going to have, or maybe it was just it was before the finale.
Yeah.
And I was like, what an amazing, nice group of people to all be in this. And then Conan comes in, and he's just so Conan. Like, he's exactly.
He's just so Conan.
They say he's tall, but he's like 10'1". And it's just one, like, you're taught as a representative to like schmooze and stuff like that. But that was one of those moments where I sat back and said nothing and just watched these folks. And I still have my fake meth from
you do
from the Conan O'Brien show, because as the credits are rolling on that show for the Conan show, every cast member is out there tossing baggies of blue meth to the audience. And I still have my baggie of blue meth.
Another one that was just one, like, I was playing keyboards with the band on Conan O'Brien, and like I couldn't even remember what the keyboard
you forgot how to play all of a sudden. That's also, I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about the piano story on Breaking Bad, because that wasn't originally in the script, right? Like, did they discuss?
Well,
how did they
the
discover?
script hadn't been written yet, so I mean,
how did they figure out you did? Did they know you did that? Did you tell them? Did you pitch it?
Somebody overheard it.
One of the writers early on in the process, I heard them talk about how we watched the actors to see, so they were talking about how social media really helps. It kind of let us see, inside the actors and what special skills might they have that we can throw in. And so, like, I was like, they need to know. Like, I have a bunch of special skills. I want to see what I can get them. If I had brought a unicycle to set, I would have like ridden by on the unicycle. It's like, oh, hi guys, by accident.
Can you imagine the Breaking Bad scene if that had been written in?
But we were shooting the NA meetings where Badger and I are selling meth in a meeting. One of the lowest scenes of my life.
Oh my God! Yeah, what was it like when you read that?
It was hilarious. I mean, like just realizing
it's
what
so
that
sick,
was going.
but it's so funny.
But we're shooting that in an actual church, and there was a room that had a piano in it, and we were on lunch, and Matt Jones actually went in and started playing piano first, and then he got up and just walked away, and so I sat down and just started tinkering on it, and I saw a writer walk by, and they walked past, and they stopped, and their head just kind of went like, huh? And then they left, and that was the last of it for a couple of months. And then I get a call or an email from one of the producers going, would you be interested in playing piano? And I was like, I will play piano and sing. I will write a symphony. What do you want? What do you name it? You name it. Give me a C. I'll bounce C.
Anything that you want.
And they went, just give us like a list of songs you'd be comfortable playing. And so I sent them this little small list of songs that I think I could pull off. And they came back with Solfeggiato. Just do that one. I was like, okay. And then I realized, I don't know the middle part. And so I spent like a month practicing every day to learn the middle part that I was real complicated. And I just didn't. And so I learned the whole song, practiced all the time. I have a video of my son, my youngest one, in a baby sling sitting, hanging from me while I'm practicing piano, and he's just bouncing up and down because that was the only way to keep him quiet at the time. And
you have a video like is that on like your channel, or do you just have it for yourself?
I have it for myself.
That's
I think
cute.
I put it on Instagram or something.
That's so cute.
Yeah, it was. He's just 1 year old, and I'm sitting there. And then we go to shoot the thing. In the script, it said I play the whole song. It's like you hear the song, and then you see, and then as he's finishing the song, we realize it's Skinny Pete, and I'm like, I have to learn this whole song. So I start playing, and we get the first stanza done. And they're like, okay, that's good. And I'm like,
I know it all.
I can do more.
There's more. They're like,
there's a little bit more.
That's all we need. Like,
why did I spend all that time learning?
I should have started closer to the middle.
This story's never get old.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was. I mean, that was me. I'd never played a recital. I was a vocal major in college at first, and my secondary instrument was piano, and I took a class piano lesson, and most of the piano playing I did was just by myself alone. So my first real recital in front of anybody was in front of millions of people.
Wow.
That's the first time I'd ever really played in front of an audience. And
people always ask about that too. They always say, was that really him playing piano? I was like, yeah, they didn't cut, like it just pans up.
Some amazing CGI.
You see like hands like super hairy, and then skinny Pete has like no hairs, right? Who played fucking piano?
Do you still do music, like a lot of music now? Like how is it?
I play for fun. Like I said, I sang for a band for a while. I learned that's not for me. But I have piano at home. I have several guitars, several ukuleles. My son, a 13-year-old now, is taking drum lessons. My daughter is taking bass guitar lessons, and they will not jam with me at all. No,
they're too cool for school.
They're too cool for me. I keep like, I used to be cool. You know when I stopped being cool? When I had you guys.
That's
It's funny how that works.
Right.
Oh my God.
Was anybody in your family into acting after your influence?
My oldest brother, he tried to make it in LA. He came out here and gave it I was like 18 years old, gave it like a year, and then was like, well, I didn't become famous. So he came back to Texas and did more drugs. And he was kind of an influence on that. He did a lot of theater in Fort Worth, and that was where I really I got to see him doing some really cool stuff. He worked at this place called Casa Manana, which it was at the time a theater in the round, and it's this big domed, alien-looking dome structure in the middle of Fort Worth that had this little tiny stage in the middle with a huge audience.
Wow.
And I saw him play the God of Thunder in Hiawatha, just run out in a loincloth with some maracas. It's like, that's what I want to do.
Yes.
and yeah, Annie Get Your Gun and Best Little Whorehouse in Texas, and I got to see him do all these things. And my other brother did makeup behind the scenes there, and just got to see, it's like real old school actors. Ken Berry from F Troop probably outdates all of you guys. He was a it was a funny show I watched when I was a kid, and suddenly he's doing theater on stage, and I'm sitting in the makeup room just chatting him up with him, and it was like my introduction to this business. It was never something I thought I'd actually be able to do, so it was cool watching it.
Do you think like it's ever been this transition? There is a Thanksgiving before Skinny P, and there is a Thanksgiving and family reunion after Breaking Bad and Skinny P. Do you think
I was kind of the black sheep of the family, especially after I got thrown out of high school? That I didn't really get invited to a lot of Thanksgivings until after Skinny Pete.
Wow.
And then I was suddenly everyone's favorite.
Yeah.
And that didn't sit right with me.
Right.
It
Feels
felt me
disingenuous.
less connected to everybody, or like you wouldn't have given me the time of day last week, and now
they want the cloud?
Now you want to tell everybody how I'm.
That's my brother-in-law. Like,
Yeah.
that's
Funny
him.
how that works.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so
Maybe if you'd been on Sons of Anarchy.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I might have done.
Might have come
Instead of
earlier.
Charlie Hunnam, we got Charlie.
Why didn't you get him on Sons of Anarchy?
It was not for lack
You
of
should have
trying.
tried.
You should ask. There was Wendy Weidman. Wendy O'Brien. Wendy O'Brien was casting and I talked to Wendy O'Brien probably once a week.
Oh my gosh.
And it's
Tell
a
her she still owes me one for.
Oh yeah,
Sons of
believe me,
Anarchy.
in the nicest way possible. But I'm always like, it's gotten down to shorthand. Like, what do we think about Charlie Baker for this? But there was a lot of that kind of email back and forth around those days where I was like, guys, this would be so easy for you. Like, it just like take someone from the most popular show on television, put him on the second most popular show on television.
Yeah.
And
The
then-
transition is like this.
Yeah.
You would think. You would think so.
but you know what? We had other opportunities in the meantime. So
Books.
good.
So El Camino drops, and then we have a pandemic, and
We sure did.
that brings it up to today in a way. And
That sums up my career right there.
Wow! I didn't mean it like that.
No,
I
I did
just
get the
mean-
That's what
Mandalorian
you're
in
gonna
between.
think right now.
No, I didn't. No, but what I meant was, in that span of time when the industry has changed so much,
Yeah.
we can look at our perspective of being on YouTube, and how many times have I said to you, like, people that only do acting, how the hell are they surviving? Like, what is
And
that
we
like?
used
And
to.
I know you've done a lot of work since, but I mean, just in the change since 2020 and everything with the industry, and like, how did that affect? How did you make it? Like, how do people? You're coming off of this major show. You've got an industry that's basically shut down for however long. Like, you're still here. You're still grinding. You're still booking good shit. Like, how did you make it through that?
My
And-
wife has a 9-to-5.
Okay. Yeah.
And she supports it. And she's been just killing it. And luckily she loves her job. She got a law degree in Texas, and she still maintains her law degree, but she works in title and escrow now.
Mm-hmm.
And she's really, really good at her job. And she's been getting a lot of promotions. But when I started, she was in law school, and I was doing a lot of the paying the bills with some of the TV shows and movies that I was doing. And then I had to she got out of law school and got her law degree, and I kind of had a little ebb in my work, and she supported us for a while. And then we moved out here, and I was working all the time, and she didn't have a job for several years when we first moved here, and we take turns. We're
supporting each other.
Yeah, we
Good
support
days
each
and bad
other.
days.
It's a team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the good news is too, though, like, because of what Charlie has done, in the previous years prior to the lockdowns, it's a very easy conversation. A lot of the buying side, casting and producers and networks and this kind of stuff, all they really kind of wanted to make sure was like, who's still around and who can we still trust to show up and do good work? And Charlie's definitely one of those people, as I'd like to think most of my clients are. And so, those opportunities come up, but it became such a buyer's market. They'll they'll say, hey, look, we love him for this, but if he doesn't love it and we can pay you whatever we want at this point, because there's 20 other people that are just coming off series that we could have for it as well. So, it's that sort of business diplomacy, obviously, but for everyone who got wiped out, it's that same sort of, frankly, it takes us right back to the beginning of the conversation about that work ethic that comes from the theater. Like you just do it. The show must go on, you know?
Yeah.
Well, it's someone said there's 1 out of every 3 actors make it in this business because the other 2 give up.
Yeah.
And it's like, as long as I'm here, I don't have anywhere else to go. I don't like, my wife and kids love LA. And so it's not like I could drag them off somewhere cheaper. Which is, I've thought about it, but I love LA. I love being here. I know it's all secular. It comes back. This is the worst I've ever seen it. But that doesn't mean it's the end of it. So I'm just trying to, hold on and hope my wife doesn't mind supporting me.
But it's funny because, we've had some of the most iconic, I mean, you always said when we first met, you wanted to be on a Star Wars.
Yeah.
And that was again, 10 years back.
First meeting.
That's so cool.
10 years, almost 10 years to the day after having that meeting with him and my agents.
And didn't you say that Star Wars, that Mandalorian was your 100th credit or something like that?
It was my 100th IMDb credit.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was Jon Favreau like on set every day with you, or was that
almost every day?
So you gotta
he
work
was somewhere
with him,
around.
Costner, Cranston. Man, I'm jealous of you. Dude.
Yeah, 13-year-old me is like,
I bet.
High five. That was another one that was just working on Star Wars. I never felt like I was a newbie as bad as I did when I was like standing there with stormtroopers running at me, holding a gun and like, what the hell?
That's so.
That's
trying
awesome.
to just like focus on Grogu, and then Grogu makes a little move, like, oh my god, he is looking at me. Like, it was amazing.
That's so cool.
Was it a lot of green screen? Was it tough, or were you on a location for The Mandalorian?
Well, we have the volume.
Was that tough to act as an actor? Like that's so different.
No, it's.
Really?
Because like you're really there, like we're on
You can hear it.
We're on a sand ship, a land speeding ship. Things are whizzing by, and you can see them whizzing by. I'm driving, and I feel like I'm actually driving the thing. I don't know if what I'm doing has anything to do with it, but like we start moving, and I'm like, oh yeah, and like I'm just totally
I'm doing it.
And then you actually see a creature coming at you. And you're like, oh crap, that's coming at, and everybody in the cast can see the same creature, and it's not on a tennis ball on a stick.
Yeah.
And
Everybody reacts
yeah.
because they can see
and
it.
all the lighting comes from like it's so much more immersive. It's like you're really there. You're like, holy shit!
Yeah.
Like
All that pretending you did as a little kid when you were 5 and 6, that's what
come to
when you
fruition,
add
yeah.
Disney money to it, that's what it looks
Yeah.
like.
That's what you do for a living now.
yeah.
It's like basically being a kid.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
yeah,
so
I caught
cool.
myself.
these
We're running through these caves, and there's like explosions going off. We're chasing stormtroopers. There's like 300 Boba Fett's surrounding
Oh my
me. All
God.
these Mandalorians, but it's like in silhouette. It's like, and I like they're yelling my name, and I don't hear them. I'm just like, ah, like Charles, move, like what? Ah! And
Like roided out laser tag.
yeah, it was. I mean,
I
I
can't
was like,
imagine,
LARPing for money. Like you're paying me to just play.
I will do this shit for free. I will pay you, right? It
I
was
get, I get that. You get that for like 5 seconds when you go on. Well, the whole ride really, but Rise of the Resistance. When you walk out of it, you've been on it.
No,
You haven't been on Rise of the Resistance?
No, I don't get out much.
Shit, man. But you walk off the ship, and it's one of the most grandiose sets at the park.
Beautiful.
At the park with all of these stormtroopers,
Yeah.
and it's like for a second there, you feel like you're actually like standing
Yeah.
there. It's like
Yeah, it's overwhelming, and it's like, and when you're actually doing it, you're like, fuck. It's like,
Do you
so
have
cool.
a special preparation when you receive a script, when you have audition? So tell us before you book audition, because every actor works differently.
Right.
Some immediately call acting coach, some meditate, some go for a walk and go read somewhere in peace. Like, what is your process when Alex sends you freaking new script, new movie, new TV show, and like, don't fuck it up, Skinny Pete, let's go. What do you do?
First I absorb the material. I
Right.
just read everything I can that I have on that. If a lot of times they just send you the side, so you have 2 pages and that's all you have to go by. So I'll look up who's directing, who's producing, and try and see what do they like, what kind of
style,
what kind of material do they put out, so you can kind of get the right tone. And I have years of experience reading scripts and going, okay, this is page 2, so this is early on in the show, so I need to pace it. There's different pacing for different acts,
right?
And just remembering all of the little technical stuff, and then as I'm memorizing the material, the character kind of
coming alive,
grows along with it, and I used to be kind of like a Charlie Chaplin-esque, like once I put on the costume, bam, I have it. You don't have that luxury.
Yeah.
And so I try and figure out, what am I going to wear for this? That like, I don't want to look like I'm auditioning, but I want to be reminiscent of the role. And so I try and find what I'm going to wear. And then that usually helps me figure out the physicality. But more than anything, it's like just most of the time you have enough time to learn the dialogue and then go.
Yeah.
Do you prefer this new normal of taped auditions, or do you
ask that?
or
You're like old school when you're in the room in front of casting director, or like, hi, my name is Charles, and I'm here for.
I'm torn. I've booked some really great stuff in self tapes. I booked Mandalorian with a self tape. And I felt like, this is awesome. I don't have to leave my house. I don't have to get stuck in traffic. I don't have to worry.
Yeah.
I've sat in auditions like going, okay, my car's getting towed.
Haven't we all?
I do not need to pay.
The parking mirror is expired. I can't even pay that ticket.
And having that kind of shit, I don't enjoy that stuff. But I do find that when I'm performing in front of people, it brings a different. My wife reads my self tapes. Like, I've been acting with her for 25 years.
Wow.
And like we just kind of have a rhythm, and I don't necessarily. I'm not always trying to impress her. I'm just trying to get the role. And I think when I have an audience, then I'm beginning to feel like maybe that wouldn't hurt too much to have that audience again.
It's definitely, I've seen from the clients that I've had, it's 50-50, and it depends largely on the age of certain clients too. Cause and some people there'll always be people who want to do it in person, and some people, when they said it was going to be mostly tapes from here on out, they were like, thank God. But I think mostly a lot of folks, I feel bad for some of the younger actors and younger performers in general who come to town. I think as frustrating as it is to have to drive 2 hours to audition for something that you don't end up getting, obviously that's awful, but it does have a certain romance to it, that there's a certain struggle and a certain story that comes along with it. Because I can tell you, I would have hated to, when I was working in the mailroom, I drove 2 hours to work in the Endeavor mailroom, and that sucked. I was stuck in traffic. However, some of the best connections I ever made were because I was, being there in person. Some of the best stories was because I was being there in person. And I look back on it, with rose-colored glasses, and I'm sure Charlie does as well in his world. So I think it's there's a lot you're missing out on by not doing that struggle and sort of going out on campus, as it were.
Yeah.
But there's upsides to both.
Yeah, but it's also amazing. I can speak for myself. When you're in casting, like when you're in the office, like me used to be a professional athlete, I fucking love competition. Yeah. When I see all these fuckers, I see all these Eastern European fuckers who's there, and I know I have only 1 minute to kill them all.
Yeah.
And that's what, I hit like...
It does.
Maybe it's better you audition for Countdown.
And then
maybe I should call David Rappaport and see why. I was like, he's just too much of a liability.
Great. And it's just like amazing. Again, like you have 1 minute, literally a minute, and you don't have to book the job. You have to book the room.
Yeah.
People, those camera guys, right? The casting director.
Yeah.
And plus, when you do self-tape audition at home, you're going to direction that you think that going to be suitable for these. There is a casting director that said, Art, this is full of shit. No. Give me this perspective.
And
and then you do the switch and do what they want.
Right. In the early days of self-tapes, before I moved out here, when it was like just kind of like every now and then thing, I would get a call right after sending in a tape. My agent would go, they love it, but they want to see it with a little bit more anger. And I'm like, okay, I got that. And I just send in another tape.
Yep.
And now I'd like, I haven't had a single.
I actually, I will say though, I've
no.
had many times where I'll tell clients just send me 2 or 3 takes.
Yep.
You know, just so that there's some variety.
Yeah.
And I always, and then they'll be like, because you know we go through a lot of times I'll have you uploaded to EcoCast on breakdowns. You guys know breakdowns. And I say, always send me the file too, so that I can send it directly to casting and in some cases producers and that kind of stuff. And they're like, well, I mean, I already uploaded it to EcoCast. I was like, okay, I understand, but EcoCast is getting in line.
Yeah.
Let me skip the line for you.
Yep.
You know, because if your tape is that good, which it is, then I should simply email over to casting and have them say, I'll say, look, the tape was great. Just want you to see it in your email. Maybe 5, 6, 7 people are going to email the casting director, whereas the other 100 that are submitting their tapes are going to go get in line like normal.
Yep.
You know, it's like, well, you can't color inside the lines if you want to be successful doing what we all do here, right?
Yep.
So it's the same sort of thing. I had a client, it was for Grey's Anatomy. He read 3 times for Grey's Anatomy. It was his version of Sons of Anarchy. Like, he had to be on the show, and he's just not like, it just wasn't happening. But I kept hitting that door. And one of my friends is one of the exec producers on Grey's Anatomy, who's known me since before the mailroom. And I was like, well, this is a shoo-in. I mean, I know the exec producer. I'll just email the tape over. And you know, I always say to the client, I was like, look, just send me a great tape so that I don't look stupid for doing this, and then I'll run it down. I'll just send it to everyone who needs to see it. Ultimately, it's their decision, and Charlie knows this too. It's like. It doesn't matter. It was the same thing with the Dick Wolf thing. Like, it doesn't matter how many times you say, this is your guy. It's like, ultimately they decide if it's their guy or not, you know? And, you know, a lot of times what Charlie's talking about, like redirects and things like that, sometimes we just don't need the redirect. Like, they get what they want. And because they've understood Charlie's been around for a while, they don't really worry that they're not going to get what they want. So they don't really need redirects, but they also, the flip side, feel comfortable enough with me and with Charlie, where they're like, hey, can he just switch it up and send us this tape or whatever it might be? But he's put out so much great supplemental material as well that when I send his auditions in, I'll also say, hey, here's his scene from this 5 years ago. Here's his Instagram where he's playing piano. And I'll just send a whole bunch of supplemental stuff. So they're like, in case this comes up, just so you have it, you know?
Yeah, very true. The whole package deal.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to send that kind of stuff. But you're right though, because sometimes they just need to meet you in the room, and sometimes it's a combination, right? Sometimes you'll tape it, and then they'll have you call back in person, you know, and then sometimes you just tape it, and you're like, again, now you're shooting Mandalorian, you know, over Christmas, whatever it might be.
Did you have callback, by the way, from Breaking Bad? Or it was direct booking?
No, a callback.
Yeah, you had
callback,
yeah.
And then they put you on pin.
Yeah. And
then you got a call, and it's like between you and somebody.
I don't think they had somebody else on that one.
All right.
it's
So
like
from
they pinned
callback
me.
direct to booking.
Yeah, pretty much. They tell me I was pinned, but you know, and then they're like, yeah, okay, it's confirmed, you're good.
When there is skinny P, there is no more second skinny P, okay?
Nobody else can do this.
Couldn't be really sad if the guy who the other guy is watching this, you know, like,
He was like, that was my role. I know
working
what
at Denny's, you know.
I do know somebody who had auditioned for that role and didn't get it, but he ended up in a different role on Breaking Bad.
So he did not walk out empty-handed.
Yeah,
so he still got something.
Do you know what? Can you remember what role it was?
Spooge, the guy who had his head crushed by the
ATM.
David Urey.
No
who's
shit.
a phenomenal actor.
So he was auditioning for the same role.
Yeah, he auditioned for Skinny Pete, but didn't get it, and that was.
But can you see him in Skinny Pete?
But you're so iconic as
Yeah.
it. I can't see anyone else doing it. But oh my gosh, that's
what
crazy.
belongs to you? Nobody can
Mine
take it.
now,
Hello,
bitch.
Spooge.
I'm Skinny Pete, yo.
Tell us about your book. Tell us about that.
All right. Well, I got contacted shortly after I moved here by a gentleman named Wayne Barton who usually ghost writes autobiographies for Manchester United football players. But he had done one for a musician whose name just escaped me, so I'm just going to continue on.
No worries. Okay.
And I'm sorry about that. I'll remember it later. He had just finished a book and was in LA finishing up this book with this musician. And he's like, I'd love to talk to you about doing an autobiography. And I was like, okay. And we met at Alex's office. And and he's a really cool dude. And he was like, he wanted to talk about, how you went from, got into Breaking Bad. And like, well, it's a story about that. And I was like, okay. And we decided to meet, and he's in England. So we're doing this all on FaceTime, and we call up and we start talking, and he's like, okay, well, it's like, tell me about your life. And I started telling him. He's like, okay, this is going to be a lot different story than what I thought it was going to be. Like, yeah. And so we spent about a year just talking every day, and he was just transcribing our conversations.
Is that during pandemic?
No, this is way before.
Yeah, it was
way
a while
before.
ago.
Okay.
Yeah. And we finished the first. He finished the first draft and sent it to me, and it was very much in his voice, and it's like I felt like I was like it was a British guy telling my story. And so I said, "Hey, do you mind if I just take what you've written and rewrite it in my voice?" And he was
Applying
like,
myself, yeah.
perfect. And so I did that, and then it's gone through several rewrites. We had a publisher thinking about it at one point, and they took it to an editor. The editor kind of butchered it, and so we got it again. And then when I was working on El Camino, one of the executive producers, I mentioned I had written a book, and he's like, well, can I read it? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. And I went home and I popped it open, and I was like, before I send it, let me read through it. And I'm like, fuck, this isn't right. So I called up my friend again, like, hey, we need to rewrite this before I send it to this producer. And so we rewrote it again. I sent it to the producer, did not get a response. And it just kind of got set aside for a while. And I was like, well, I guess, after I die, maybe somebody will, it's written,
Yeah.
But then suddenly I got a call from my co-writer, Wayne, and he says there's a publisher that's interested in publishing your book. And this was just like last year. And I was like, okay. And so we talked, and they really loved it. And they asked if they could send it to their editor, and their editor read through it and sent back notes. And I was like, oh God, what are they going to say? And a lot of it was like, I love this. This is a great line. And I was like, okay. And they're like, when did this happen? just little tiny details. So we went and did yet another draft and sent it back. And now it's due to be coming out in October.
That's awesome.
So like I said, when you set those time bombs like 10 years earlier, and it'll just,
seriously, it was about 8 years of us working on that, maybe a little longer.
What can you tell us about what to expect in it? Like, is it how much of it is Breaking Bad? How much of it is your life?
We decided on the title of Breaking Character.
Nice.
Which I thought was nice. And that was the publisher's idea. Obviously, that's what the subject that kind of would get people interested in reading it. So we went with, okay, we'll talk about Breaking Bad early on, but it's my life story, and it's the hard and gritty stuff.
What do you think happened?
And it's not in a very linear format. I kind of jump back and forth. I was born in DC, and then Breaking Bad was awesome. And then, this happened, and it was more to compartmentalize the traumatic events as they unfold, and not, just make it overbearing. But it's the rawest part of what makes me. And hopefully, it'll see an audience.
Absolutely.
No,
Is it?
I'll be buying it.
Oh yeah. It's not. You can't pre-order it yet.
Not yet.
Okay.
No. They're still working on covers and
I love the title
and
though.
all that.
as
That's
soon as we
great.
get some, we'll get some copies. Over
Absolutely.
To you guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It was hard. It was hard. I mean, it was like I didn't get to get therapy. So like reliving my childhood and a lot of the worst experiences of my life was pretty rough. And it was, and then taking a break from that and like getting away from it, and like that was rough.
Yeah, I can imagine.
To break out of that mindset again, and then to have to go back into it a few years later and reread it and rewrite it. And I thought it would be interesting to at least get it out. My dad had a was considered, an American hero, and he's had articles written about him. He's been thanked in books, but I know nothing about his life. And I want my kids to have some idea when they're old enough to like, one's 17, but I still don't want her to read it yet.
Wow.
When I want them to, have a little bit of understanding maybe of where I came from and why I'm such a, what they would call, kind of a loser now, because I want to give them the best life. And that's really my only goal right now, is to just be a parent that I never had. And to not, traumatize them. It's like they're both teenagers, and neither of them have PTSD yet. So
that's good.
Like,
that's an accomplishment right there.
Yeah.
I can't wait to read.
I can't
this
wait.
book. Yeah, it's gonna be.
I hear it's good. I've seen it so many times.
When you're so close to something, it's like
I
impossible
did have some
to judge
good
it.
moments where I thought, hey, that's a pretty cool way to say that. So
Well, it's funny because I've been hearing about this book ever since. I mean, when you were doing El Camino and all that, and we'd go together on various appearances or whatever it might be. I've been sort of hearing. I'd always ask, hey, how's the book coming? Or you'd give me the updates on it or whatever. So it's nice to see that it's actually coming about because all these stories that I've heard through the last 13 years of working together have found a nice culmination place. It sounds like, and I think it's what makes Charlie approachable too, for the fans as well, is that you've lived the life that many of these people have, so.
That's incredible.
I have a question for you. From one fellow actor to another fellow actor. Every actor has his dream role. Tell me, what would be, did you have one yet? Is there any role that you want to get any challenge? Is it any?
And what is
dream
next
role?
for you?
What is next for you?
I don't know. That's been the hardest thing in the world for me, because really, Mandalorian was
checked a lot of boxes.
Yeah. I took a picture.
Childhood dreams.
I took a picture of myself in the dressing room with my Mandalorian outfit, and it's so resembles Boba Fett, who was the fucking guy back in the day. And I'm just in awe. I don't know, what else could I want after this?
Didn't you take a Mandalorian picture with the Skinny Pete beanie?
Skinny Pete
No
beanie.
way.
Yeah.
You did?
I knew that was going to be a little special treat.
Did you post that?
Yeah, eventually.
I want to see that.
Yeah, you sent it to me once and said, "Don't share this yet." And I think you were going to you put that out on the when Mandalorian was announced or something like that. But I was like, oh my God.
My main idea was to keep it just as a print, not let anybody have it digitally, and just use it to sell for extra money at conventions.
But for sure.
But I figured just having it, because I just brought Jimmy Kimmel's beanie that he made for the Heat and Meat with Skinny Pete bit. Took it to the Mandalorian set. And just
that's so cool.
Do you see yourself acting for the rest of your life and play characters as a Godfather or playing some
I do, because I don't have any other marketable skills. So I don't know.
You're so fucking honest. You do. What?
Acting is the only thing I'm really I have that
all eggs
really
in one
pay.
basket.
Yeah,
acting.
If they came to you with a Skinny Pete spinoff, would you do it?
Probably. I mean, if it were any good. I mean, if they want me to still be a 27-year-old Skinny Pete, I don't know if I could pull that off anymore. I was 35 when I started playing him, and 41 when I finished, and he was still 27. So, I like playing those kind of roles. I haven't really been able to think of what I'm up for next.
What do you say? What's next for him?
I have a feeling. I
need a haircut. Is really.
I mean,
I love your hair long, dude.
Thanks, man.
I love it.
Thanks.
I'm so used to it to see, I was not expecting, to have these beautiful long hair.
The Keanu Reeves hair.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's funny. A lot of clients, they get really they're like, hey, is it okay if I shave this off or trim this hair a little? I was like, with Charlie, I'm like, just let me know what you look like right now, and I'll pitch around that, But I have enough stuff here that if casting can't figure it out what you look like with a beard, then that's their problem. But when it comes to what's next for Charlie, I mean, it's a lot of it's kind of easier to say what just happened rather than what's going to happen.
Yeah.
We joke. I mean, I joke with Charlie because I know sometimes it doesn't feel like joking about it, but every time every time we think like the next thing's not coming around the corner, it's this almost, I'd say it's a tradition now. I'm standing in like the most random of areas every time. Well, I'll get a call and be like, hey, man, he'll be like, hey, man, what's going on? What's next? Like, is this slow right now? I'll be like, listen, it's terrible. I'm not going to lie to you. Like, it's terrible everywhere, whatever it might be. It's much better for you than it is for the vast majority of people, but it's terrible. And I always say to him, I was like, every time you call me and wonder what the next step is or where are we going, the next thing manifests itself. So let's just pretend that that's happening right now. Yeah. And it's always I'm standing in a random like Food for Less parking lot or, you know, like at an airport parking lot or just some random spot where like I don't really have time to like get, you know, deep into like, you know, emotional support and anything like that. But I'll stand there in Food for Less. Last one was Food for Less parking lot. And for 45 minutes, I'll be like, I know that you don't, this is not scientific, but all I can tell you is that your next thing is around the corner because this is how it's always worked. Yeah. You know, all I can tell you is I still give a shit. Your agents still give a shit. Mm-hmm. You clearly still give a shit. The hard part's done. Everyone else on the buying side, casting, they love you.
They know who you are.
Yep. As soon as something is there to harvest, we're your farmers. We're going to harvest the shit out of it, you know? And it always ends up happening like that where, but there's always a bit of a suspense, you know, every single time.
A little bit.
You know, but I to that point, I don't think that your history with Vince Gilligan and that crew is over, frankly. I think I have this feeling that that's, you know, there's more juice to that squeeze. Yeah. I think Vince really likes you, you know.
I was just about to say, what is your relationship?
Isn't he doing a new series with Rhea Seehorn?
Right? Yeah. From Ray?
Is it Ray?
Okay. I always got it wrong too. He corrected me. Like I was embarrassing myself, but yeah, that one's coming out shortly as well. I mean, these are conversations that I have with the folks that I know he knows that I know they know him and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I talk to Sharon and Sherry, you know, all the time. Like, hey, you know, it's not like I have to pitch him anymore. Like I know they know who he is.
They know exactly who he is.
So it's a quick like, hey, what do we think about this? Do we think there's going to be something in this for Charlie? Whatever it might be. But I don't sit back and wait. Like until they tell me, hey, we want Charlie for this, we go look at a million other things all the time.
So many directions.
Yeah. Exactly. And it's funny too because I was just telling Charlie as we were walking in, I was like, I even have like this seems to be becoming a theme where like old interns from my company have gone on now to produce films and work at other places. And they've started to reach out to me to like hire Charlie for films they're working on. Yep. And I'm like, that's a really nice thing that they feel comfortable enough
generation after generation.
Well, what's funny is that they saw me there doing those deals and they think I'm going to be nice to them. And I'll come right back to them and I'll say, you know how this works. You send me the offer. Send me the offer, and and you know how much she's supposed to get paid. So don't try and
don't try to lowball.
You're my friend, and I'm proud of you, but don't think I'm going to like just pull punches.
I don't really want to be on the other side of that.
Yeah, so just exactly. So you know, there's just a nice vibe around it. But really, I think the universe just rewards you when you get this. When it's clear that you are still in it to win it, and you know
you're still in the game,
no
matter what.
I don't feel stupid advocating on behalf of Charlie or you guys, but this is about. You know, Charlie right now. I don't feel stupid advocating on behalf of clients in general because you guys make me look good, you know, because you guys are doing what you say you're going to do.
What are you supposed to do?
Yeah. So it's like, I wish that I could go, once you guys are hired on these things, I wish that I could go to set and be like, let's put them in 5 more episodes. Let's do this. Let's do that. Because I know you'd be up for it. But ultimately, it's their show, you know? Yeah. And, you know, I'll poke and prod, but I also don't ever want it to be like them to be feel like I'm desperate for them to work. I'm not desperate for you guys to work. I'm like I said in the beginning of this conversation, I'm genuinely happy when things are going well for you guys, you know? And that's what I want. But then they try and get into this thing where it's like, oh, well, but then you have to balance that, right? Where it's like, yes, I'm genuinely happy with when they're working, but I'm ecstatic when they're working and getting paid what they're worth. Yeah. You know, that's the balance.
Yeah, that's important. And I will throw one more question from my side.
Are we okay? I mean, I know we're way past 2 hours, but
we're fine.
My question is to you, like all these questions that we're generally asking, it's something, again, we all can resonate because that's why we in this industry, in this room, we dedicated life. We don't see as often our parents or the loved ones because we decided to fucking pursue the dream, pursue of happiness, ironically. Because today is the day after the Oscars. My question is to you, if you've been so many years in this industry, in theaters, in movies, in everything, what kind of advice would you give to yourself, the young version of Charlie, being all the way, let's say, like early 20s? What do you suggest to yourself?
Oh, well, if it were in my early 20s, like, don't wait. Stop making excuses for
just
not
fucking
being
do
an
it.
actor and just go fucking do it. Because like that's a lot of, I had a high school teacher when I was 16 tell me you need to run away from home, steal as much money from your mom's purse as you can, run away from home and go to LA. And I think if I would have done it at that time, I would have ended up in like a River Phoenix situation. It just ended up down on the streets.
Yeah.
So I needed to get my shit together first. But I did wait too long for me. I waited longer than I probably should have, making up excuses why I can't be an actor.
Yeah.
Why I shouldn't be an actor. I've been told, you're too short, you're too ugly, you're too all the things, you're not enough. By everybody my entire life. And so like, well, I'll never do it. And then I finally went, well, fuck what they think. Let's try it anyway. I'd rather be happy trying than friggin' still covered in grease, hating myself, wondering what if,
being miserable. Yeah.
But oh well, where did that question go?
No. So if you will give that suggestion to yourself, which is like, don't wait.
Don't wait. And go for it, and don't listen to anybody else.
All the haters,
anybody, all the people who aren't doing it.
Yeah,
have no place to tell you what you can or can't do. And so that's what I did. And like my dad, he was very against the idea of me being an actor and going into the entertainment industry. And then later on, after Breaking Bad, and I called him up and asked him for advice. Like, I'm thinking of moving to LA, and what do you think? And he was like, I've been wrong this entire time.
Wow.
You do not need my advice.
Yeah.
And that was like,
that takes balls to say that to your son.
The most important thing I'd ever heard him say to me. And I was like, fuck, okay.
Wow. Give me goosebumps, that line.
Wow.
Yep. Because, and that's the thing, we have our generation, like there's so many generations in this room. And now we have ability to go live on any gadgets, on any Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Back in the days, it's like, all right, bitch, so you're gonna be a lawyer, my son gonna be this, and it's like, it's kind of, you don't have those options.
Yeah.
You cannot just show up and like, mom and dad, I want to be a freaking Broadway actor, I want to be this and this. No, it's like, no, you're not. Go to Ralph's and you work from 9 to 5 and pack the bags. And
my dad had my spot at West Point reserved already. I was supposed to go to West Point. I was going to go to West Point, and then like when you get out of West Point, you request to go to Germany. Go to Germany, you can buy yourself a Porsche in Germany a lot cheaper. Then when you get out of your first 4 years, you move back to LA, fly your Porsche, or move back to the States, fly your Porsche back with you, and then you got one less. And that was like, he thought that was that was my plan.
Wow.
Well, yeah, I've always kind of wanted a Porsche, but I don't know if I want to do that for it.
So how?
I still haven't had a Porsche.
That's actually
It's coming.
It's coming.
I told my wife before I die. Maybe the day before I die, but before I die.
You don't need to fly it from Germany either. They got them around here.
Well, it's cheaper.
True.
Overall.
True.
That was his.
But tell you what, we'll get that booking where it wouldn't matter.
He was a cheap bastard and a colonel in the army.
Tell that to Alex. He's gonna buy a Porsche.
We'll work on that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It can even be a used one.
Hey, that's fine.
So you see, like I lost my dad when I was 5, 6. So, and as a kid, I was like, yeah, I want to be like my dad. If my dad is in Navy and he parked his fucking nuclear submarine next to Cuba and spying on America, I want to do exactly like this.
Yeah.
How did you not follow your dad's steps if he came from such a military background, and how it was not influenced? All right, you're gonna be a fucking soldier. You're gonna be doing this. Why you not end up? You did not end up in the army.
When I was little, when he was at Fort Knox, I had child-sized fatigues. Wow. I would show up to the base when I was staying with him for the summer. I'd show up to the base. I'd hang out in the barracks. I took hand-to-hand combat. By the time I was 9, I could do the obstacle course better than any new recruit. And he used to use that and make me like do it with the new recruits and go, look, the 12-year-old can do it, 9-year-old. When I was 10, he took me to Israel when he was commander of the peacekeeping forces over there. he became a target of several terrorist groups there, which meant me as one of his sons also became a target of those terrorist groups. We got shot at. Our house got bombed. It got leveled. We had to evacuate. I spent the night in a bomb shelter listening to air raids going off. There were constant. We were right on the border of Beirut in Israel, a little town called Naharia. And you could see in the distance explosions going off. And there were... after being shot at 10 years old and having to evacuate Israel and drive into Gaza and hide out in Gaza and then go into Cairo and hide out in Cairo for a while in Egypt and then rush back to Jerusalem and fly out of Tel Aviv to evacuate, and he had to stay. And a few days later, the U.S. Embassy in Beirut gets blown up by a truck bomb, and he was the target of that truck bomb. I didn't really want to see any kind of war again after that. And so I ended up with my mom while he was, still in the Middle East, and he ended up in the Sinai Peninsula. And my mom had psychological problems, really bad psychological problems. And so she abandoned me on the streets in Albuquerque, New Mexico, of all places, at 11 years old. And so I had just been through war, and I then started living on the streets, and was some 20-something kids taught me how to roll joints and mix drinks and let me sleep on their couch. And I was like their housekeeper / drink maker, joint roller at 12 years old. And then my dad came back from the military, took me up to Pennsylvania, dropped me off with his new wife, went back and left me alone again. And,
you could just as easily be telling Skinny Pete's backstory right now.
Yeah. Yep. Then, that's probably why that resonated so well.
Please tell me all of these that you just said going to be in your book.
Yeah, that's the whole point of the book.
Wow.
It's to get through a lot of that.
It's like, how many lives did you live in one life? And that's what happened when you're, obviously the influence of parents is so fucking important and so huge. Yeah. Like when something is broken, it's affect everybody, kids and next following generations.
Right.
And again, when I start, digging deep about you, and when I found out that you, same as me, from military family, I was like, how did he not end up being in military family?
Because
especially influencing by dad.
My oldest brother went into the army, and when he joined, my dad nudged his commanding officer and said, "Hey, take care of my son," which in military lingo means be hard on him.
Yeah.
And they were. And my brother got a dishonorable discharge. So he went into the Navy and then got another dishonorable discharge.
Oh my God.
Both my brothers actually went into the military, and it didn't work out great for them at all. One went to prison while working in the army. And it's just the culture was the culture of violence and the strict rules, and it wasn't for me. And especially seeing the actual atrocities of war firsthand. It's a 10-year-old really just.
Are you the youngest one?
Yeah. I was an accident, so I was like way younger than the rest.
Wow.
And so they were all. It's like they were all. My brothers and sister grew up together. And then just as they're moving out of the house, I'm born. And so I was like, I had siblings, and then I was an only child. And then I was the only child of a divorced mom with psychological problems.
Oh my God.
A completely different life than they had.
Charlie, here we go. Listen what's going to happen. We're manifesting, you and me.
Right.
We're putting all these, your military experience, we're sending this fucking wave towards Alex. Alex, you calling Spielberg, and whatever they do new, Saving Ryan.
It's just that easy.
Ryan.
It's just that he's Saving Ryan. I think Saving Ryan's the porn one. I think
Saving Ryan's Privates. I think that's Saving Ryan's Privates.
That's what it is. That's what it is.
That's right.
It's actually better I didn't know the title of that. I'm starting to think,
And this is
Jesus. So Breaking Character should be out in 25, right?
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yes.
We'll have to
definitely
share the shit out of that, because I want to read that back.
Every chapter is going to be a new life. Something that nobody knew about you.
I made a British football fan cry just telling them my life story.
Wow.
So, have fun with that.
Oh my gosh.
You walk away humming the tunes.
Yes.
Where
Yeah.
can people? Are you active on any particular platforms, social media? People can
I
follow
haven't
you.
been active on anything lately, but typically on Instagram is where I park.
That's your home base.
Yeah.
Charlie's really good about getting back to the fans too. He's like, I think they're kind of thrown off sometimes. Like, Charlie, I'd love to meet you, and they'll be like, I'll be at such and such. You know.
Yeah, that's
We actually do have an
buying?
appearance. Where exactly? We do have an appearance coming up. I think I don't know if you want to tell people
Yeah,
about that in July.
In July in Albuquerque at the Albuquerque store, the Breaking Bad store in Old Town Albuquerque. Me, Matt Jones, and Rodney Rush, who played Combo, are going to be appearing together for the first time
Since the show.
since the show.
shit.
Who organized that?
That would be
The Breaking Bad store and then we have Charlie's appearance agent, who's also a manager at our company,
Ben.
Ben Ricardo, who I've worked with for a number of years. We came to know each other because he was booking appearances for Charlie. But yeah, since Charlie's so great with all the fans, you know, they were like, would it be interesting to get all of Jesse's friends together for the first time? We're like, you mean Skinny Pete and Badger, or Skinny Pete, Badger and Combo? Because people, you know, sometimes they forget that Combo, you know, was also part of the group early on. And yeah, so this will be the first time that since Breaking Bad that all three of them have been together at the Breaking Bad store in Albuquerque. I think it's July 12th, right?
somewhere around there.
Mid-July.
We'll have to post the
Mid-July.
detail. I'm looking for an excuse to drive there because I want to go to all the locations, and I just
It's
you know
weird to
so
be in
maybe-
Albuquerque, especially with these guys. I'm telling you,
I
like
bet.
it was weird.
Yeah,
That one time we went for the convention and we stopped for brunch, and it was you and me, and then Danny Moncada and the two guys who played the cousins, cousin assassins.
Oh yeah.
Lewis and Daniel.
Yeah, Lewis and Daniel. We were just sitting there having brunch, you know, but in Albuquerque with the two assassins and Skinny Pete. I was just like, this is one of those fever dream
Should I be
moments, you
worried
know?
right now?
Yeah, exactly.
That's so cool.
I did the tour. I did like Walt's house, Jesse's house,
You did?
the restaurant. Yeah, I did. It was amazing.
Right.
Did you go to the
on.
Crystal Palace?
What's that?
Did you go to the Crystal Palace?
The hotel.
The hotel?
No, but I did buy the meth, the blue candy, and I kept eating it. I was like, okay, I got to keep
It's
one.
addictive as
Yeah.
hell,
As
isn't it?
long as you bought the candy and not the actual meth.
I
That's
tried both. Yeah.
I love that legacy. It's been how many years? 10 years, right?
since
Since Breaking Bad.
first episode was 2008, went off the air in 2013. Last episode was 2013.
12 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Jeez.
then El Camino was 2019.
Yes.
I think it premiered. Yeah, premiered actually in 2020, didn't it? Or is it on? I don't know. Netflix. Netflix suggests it to me every time I go home. I'm like, yes, I know it's there.
I love that legacy is still alive and it's still going strong.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. I love, like, my kids' friends are now discovering it, and they're like,
It's one of those shows that'll just have a resurgence of
It's gonna be classic.
Every,
It is classic.
every new generation is
and I
going to
love
rediscover it.
I love seeing it. It's
And then kids of your kids, grandkids, they're like, what? My grandpa?
Yeah.
He was on this show? Badass.
yeah.
Thank
I already
you.
got that one.
Thank you so much for being so forthcoming with all these stories and
that's-
all the. I mean,
Thank you for being
pleasure.
coolest.
This
Like,
is so.
cool cat.
This has been.
right on.
I could talk to you for 10 more hours, but this has been so freaking awesome. What is the Instagram handle? Just so we'll put it in the links and everything.
The
but-
Charles Baker.
The Charles Baker on
Yes,
Instagram.
On Instagram. You know it's
let's get
me.
the info for that.
Easy peasy.
That
Event.
event because I want to go.
Oh,
You guys should come.
I'm down
Yeah,
to go.
I want to.
Seriously,
I really want
and
to.
honestly, I'll tell you this: with the Breaking Bad store, when they do events, like it's gonna be lines out the door for these things because this is a first for sure to have everyone back together. So you guys should definitely come out.
would love
Like,
to.
It's gonna be great
They
fun.
host the Heisenberg Museum there too.
God, I want to do all of this.
There's a lot
Oh,
of
this is so cool.
it seems like it's a really cool place.
Yep.
Alex, thank you
Thank
for
you guys
bringing
for your time.
this
This has been so much freaking fun.
amazing human.
And we'll be seeing you again soon, man. Thank you so
Glad to
much,
be
brother.
here. Glad it was fun.